Call the meeting to order. Item 2 is citizens' comments. So this is an opportunity for citizens to address the commission with comments and or questions about planning and zoning commission related matters that are not a public hearing action item on our agenda tonight. Are there any public comments not related to a public hearing tonight? No, nothing called, emailed, snail mailed in?
Carrier pigeon?
Yeah, carrier pigeon.
I lost my pigeon.
All right, that takes care of item number 2. Item number 3 is our active agenda. So approval, or item A on our active agenda is approval of the May 27, 2026 meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair, there is one correction. Dawn has made it on the copy for you guys to sign.
Okay.
But in the discussion from the reason statement from last meeting for ZNC 24-5, one of the map that you guys chose to change is referenced as map 3 East AH2.
Okay.
And that is an incorrect reference. So we have changed it. I believe it's
1B.
1B
Okay.
is the one that you guys changed. Dawn has already made that adjustment. We identified it after packets were sent.
Well, with that, Commission, if there are no other revisions suggested, I will take a motion.
I so moved. People? I will second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right. So item B on our agenda is considering the approval of the reason statement for zone change application ZNC 24-5, upzone of properties on the west and east side of the 21st Street corridor. And correct me if I'm wrong, I thought this was going to come back up since we changed it.
Yes, so, I'm just moving my thing, because it'll be a little easier for me to take my notes. So you had asked the question during the meeting about whether or not you would have to re-notice it for public hearing. Per the Idaho code, because there is a subsequent public hearing already, we just have to amend the notice of public hearing to include your recommendation.
Okay.
You don't have to have another public hearing because City Council is having their public hearing.
Gotcha, okay.
If it was something that City Council wasn't having a public hearing,
Okay.
then you would have to redo the public hearing.
So if our decision was binding,
If it was
essentially.
final.
Final, okay. All right, that answers my question. And I did look it over, it did look good, it had our, I'll call it stipulation,
Yes.
or our change,
Our
I'll
change,
say.
yep.
So if there's no additional commentary, I will take a motion to either approve, deny, or modify the reason statement as presented. Well, the reason,
No, the reason statement is correct, just the minutes.
Oh, sorry.
yes. So the reason statement has the amendment that we discussed.
Yes, in the reason statement, I used all of those same maps that were presented at the meeting on the boards that had been part of the public hearing notice.
Yes.
Dawn had just gone off my presentation that had a previous map with a different title on it.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the reason statement as is for zone change application ZNC 24-5.
And I will second that motion. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the reason statement as presented for ZNC 24-5, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries. All right. Well, that takes us through item B. So item C on our active agenda is a public hearing and recommendation to City Council on zoning code amendment ZA-03-26, and this is an action item. So I'll explain the public hearing process now so that when we get to the public hearing, which I assume most of you are here for, I can explain the public hearing process again if you want, but it just saves us some time. So I'll explain the subject of the public hearing like I've done here. There are 3 on the agenda, including this one. I do ask for testimony on any public hearing that we have tonight, that you try and limit your comments to 3 minutes. I'm not gonna strictly hold you to that, but I ask that just as a courtesy so that everybody has a chance to comment. It's not meant to limit your testimony, it's just so everybody has a chance. After that, then, well, I should back up. So I'll open the public hearing. We'll hear a staff presentation on the public hearing. After that, then we will hear, if it's relevant, we will hear testimony from the applicant. Then we will hear testimony from the public. And then after that, the applicant will have an opportunity to present any additional information should they choose to do so. During this time, commissioners will be able to ask questions. And then after that, I will close the public hearing, and then we will deliberate our relevant criteria and standards. So with that, I will open the public hearing and we will go ahead and get started.
Good evening. You've got two public hearings, legislative hearings on zoning code amendments on your agenda tonight. This is the first of the two of them. They both stem from legislation passed during the last legislative session. This particular one has to do with multi-dwelling unit manufactured homes, which results in essentially 3 amendments to the City of Lewiston zoning code. 2 of those are to definitions. One is to add recognition of multi-dwelling unit manufactured homes to the definition of multifamily dwelling, so that they can be recognized as multifamily dwellings in the City of Lewiston zoning code. An amendment to the 2-family dwelling definition to recognize multi-unit manufactured homes as a 2-family dwelling or a duplex. And then the third amendment changes the size allowance for manufactured homes. It drops it from 1,000 square feet to 800 square feet. They're now manufacturing units in sections that provide for more manufactured housing. So that's what we've done here, and it's pretty straightforward. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions, commissioners?
There's no reason statement necessary for this. This is a legislative matter.
Okay. So it can just be a majority of us present. Okay.
Yep, you're making a recommendation to City Council to approve or deny.
Is there any testimony from the public on this particular public hearing? I will take that as a no. All right. So if there are no questions from the commission, then I will, well, I should say, don't want anything mailed, called in, snail mailed, pigeon mailed. All right, well, with that, then I will close the public hearing and we will deliberate. All right. This is pretty
straightforward.
Yeah,
Sounds
pretty
really
dry.
straightforward, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mandate.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
it's
I
kind of
don't think there's wiggle room here,
No,
so.
Not just a.
Sorry.
So with that being said, Mr. Chair, I would recommend that we approve the 26-076 JT with the zoning amendment ZA 03-26 to the City Council to just get us in alignment with Idaho State statute.
It's been moved, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. So that takes us through item C on our agenda. So item D is another public hearing. So I'll open up the public hearing, and again, we'll hear staff presentation from Joel, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so this is another mandate from the state legislature. This one has to do with what the state refers to in Idaho code as accessory dwelling units. Our local code refers to them as accessory apartments. They're the same thing. The first part of the draft you've got in front of you, which in the future will be ordinance number 4972 when it goes to City Council, is deletion of the provisions for accessory apartments in the Normal Hill North Zone and the Normal Hill South Zone. The reason for that is because under the new Idaho code, we're required to treat accessory apartments as equally throughout all zoning districts. So we have special provisions currently in city code for ADUs in the Normal Hill North and South zones. Those need to go away, so they're being deleted. And then you've got a series of adjustments to the accessory apartment standards having to do with the allowable size, which is being increased from 900 square feet to 1,000 square feet for a cap, or 75% of the habitable space of the house, whichever of the two is greater. Lot coverage is applicable. The parking requirement is 1 per bedroom to a maximum of 2, unless the principal dwelling unit does not have off-street parking, or the street is not paved and designed or constructed for on-street parking, or unless the principal dwelling unit is within 1/4 of a mile of a transit route, an employment area, or commercial services. That's language straight from the state statute. They didn't give any guidance on what an employment area is or a commercial services area, so we'll have to deal with that as it comes. Obviously, we all know what a transit route is. That's mapped. There's an amendment to the setback requirements. We've got to treat them the same as the single-family dwelling unit. So that appears as item number 4 on page 2 of the draft. Item 5 is being deleted. Actually, I'm sorry, it's being amended. That's also a state mandate regarding the height, the allowable height of the ADU. Item number 6 on page 2 goes away because it has to do with setbacks, and the state's mandating that we can't have that limitation in there anymore. Same with item 7. And that is the conclusion of the changes presented based on the new legislation.
Did we have any leeway with how we interpreted this, other than like what is defined as an employment zone?
That's yet to be determined.
Okay.
We have no guidance from the state. Eventually, we may come back with another code amendment to try to qualify that.
Are we expecting guidance from the state on it?
No.
No, okay. That's my backup question. Commissioners, any questions? Is there any testimony from the public on this particular public hearing? Anything called snail mail, pigeon mail, phone? All right, commissioners, well, if there are no additional comments, questions, concerns?
Just real quick, did you want to mention about the legislation that's in the packet versus the ordinance?
Oh, yeah, just point out, I gave you the wrong version of Senate Bill 1354 in the meeting packet.
Okay.
The draft Lewiston zoning code amendments you have are correct, but the version of the legislation that I put in the packet was the wrong version. The version I put in the packet was amended later through an engrossment. And so just so that you know, you have the wrong version of the legislation in your packet, but the draft City of Lewiston zoning code amendments are based on the engrossment.
Just out of curiosity, the momentum behind the state doing this is to allow for greater development of existing lots across state so that we can accommodate more housing. Yes.
Generally speaking, yes. I think one of the primary motivations behind it is that local jurisdictions were treating them differently. Some jurisdictions were not permitting them or requiring discretionary review to approve them, and this is going to make it basically the same throughout the state.
I can actually speak to this a little bit since I was on the committee that passed it out of the House. The whole point was to basically set a base standard because, like Mr. Plaskins was saying, we had some cities were over-regulating, some cities were not regulating at all. We wanted a uniform base for for private property rights, people do what they want with their homes. And then to reduce the over restrictions that are happening in places like McCall and other areas like that, where if you do own one, you have no representation, you can't vote for city council, you have no choice, right? And so that was the whole purpose of this, was to make it uniform across the state, and then again, to add more housing, make more housing available for renters and things like that.
And the standards, it looks like Lewiston, we were a little bit more restricted as far as size.
Right.
And so you guys came up with 1,000.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with the draft of that legislation. It was Jordan Redmond out of Coeur d'Alene drafted that bill.
Okay.
So he came up with the language that was in there, but
As far as the size, I mean, over time, what an accessory dwelling unit has changed, and so it's just changed, and this is just reflecting that change as well.
No, I understand that. Thank you. I'm just trying to get a grasp on what we're doing, and it feels like we're infilling or allowing for infill, as Kyle said.
Yeah, and that, I mean, speaking to the legislature as someone that compiles all the legislation, one of the core goals that you've seen and common theme from the state legislature this particular session was to allow for more infill developments and affordable housing options, and so allowing ADU units and taking away some of the more common restrictions from cities about owner occupation, parking, and what you can or can't use it for. That is what's generally being changing, more in favor of private property rights and less over government regulation.
I have no objections. I was just.
If there's no additional comments, questions, I will close the public hearing and then we will deliberate. Kind of another open and shut case.
I think so.
So with that, commissioners, I will take a motion.
All me tonight. Mr. Chair, I will make a motion that we approve ZA 03-26 to the City Council.
And I will second that motion. So it has been moved and seconded that we approve zoning code amendment ZA-03-26 to the City Council for recommendation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. All right, so item E on our active agenda is a public hearing and subsequent deliberation and direction to staff regarding the reason statement for Fairview Terrace Apartments Planned Unit Development Amendment by Millennium Trust LLC. So I've explained the public hearing process. We will open it, and then we will hear a staff presentation from Katie Hollingshead, then from the applicants, and we will hear public testimony, and the applicant will have a chance to respond, and then we will close the public hearing and deliberate. All right, take it away, Katie.
All right. Katie Hollingshead, Assistant Planner. Dawn's gonna get my lovely PowerPoint up and rolling. Yay, okay. So tonight we are looking at, this is a planned unit development amendment, so this is called PUD-26-1. This is a request for the Fairview Terrace planned unit development to have a zoning designation change. This application comes from Millennium Trust LLC. So like usual, we are going to go through maps and photos. Okay. So applicant is requesting that the vacant 2.65 acre parcel in the Fairview Terrace planned unit development be reclassified from a single family residential to higher density residential R4 zone. The applicant is proposing to build 3 buildings with 48 residential units. So map of subject property is right here, hashed out in black. So this is 17th Street, cruising on by it. 23rd is right here. 24th is this cul-de-sac here. 25th is this dead end road up here. Yes. So our subject property is located in what's called the Fairview Terrace planned unit development. Applicant is looking at the unplatted Block 2 of the Darby Village subdivision. So I will use these terms kind of back and forth a little bit. So Fairview Terrace is the zone of the subject property and its adjacent neighbors. So this whole part that's outlined in red and hashed is the Fairview Terrace planned unit development. Darby Village is the subdivision for this section right here, which includes 24th Avenue, the north portion of 25th Avenue, and the undeveloped block, that's called Block 2 of Darby subdivision, which is right here. So that's the one that the applicant is asking for. So like I said, we have 25th, we have 17th Street running along the east side, 24th Avenue cul-de-sacs right here. 25th Avenue is at the top, or the bottom, I guess, the southern portion over here. You can see the surrounding area is R2 zone, which is low-density residential zone. Across the street of 23rd and across from 17th is C6, which is a commercial zone. So again, the the Fairview Terrace planned unit development is outlined. So when this planned unit development was originally developed in 1978, they called it out with 4 different zoning designations underneath this total umbrella of a planned unit development. Those 4 designations were single-family residential, 2-family or duplex residential, multifamily, and then commercial. So as the PUD currently stands, this little section up here is the multifamily section that remains, right? So there's an 11-unit complex in here. There are a series of duplexes right here, and then the remaining piece is part of the McSorley School playground. Then we have this commercial section right here. This is a Houston Professional Plaza, and then this is Fairview Dental. And then we have the single-family residential section, which is the Darby Village subdivision and the unplatted lot that is our subject property. Now, a little history on Fairview Terrace, because it is a really old PUD. It's been around since 1978. So when this was originally done, they had those 4 designations, right? They platted some of it. It was not developed in the manner it was originally platted. So a portion over here between these zoning designations that are colored was also part of it. That ended up being platted into single family and some duplex residential, and then subsequently removed. Same, this section up here that contains the Regents campus was also a portion of the PUD at one point, was removed, had its zoning designation changed. Then this section where the Houston Plaza, Houston Professional Plaza was originally designated as that multifamily. And so there were 2 separate actions that came in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission and then subsequently the City Council with the request to change this section. This was originally 2 lots. It was like 1 here and 1 here. To change this from multifamily to a commercial designation. So then that first one was done and they built the first 3 buildings. And then the second one was done and they built the second 3 buildings. So there's 6 buildings that are all interconnected there. So those requests were done in 2003 and then in 2005. And then in 2006, that's when the Darby Village subdivision was done. So that's when this portion was, the beginning of this development was done. It was previously platted as part of this multifamily section with a much different roadway situation. It didn't look anything like this, right? And that was prior to our applicant, Millennium Trust, purchasing the remaining property that was in Fairview Terrace. So then Millennium Trust came through, asked for those designations to be changed from multifamily in this section in the red to commercial. And then there was also request to do some two-family residential in this stretch and some two-family residential along 25th Street, prior to 25th Street being 25th Street, or 25th Ave, sorry. And so both of those requests were denied. After those requests were denied, and that's when the single-family residential subdivision came through. So, clear as mud, clear as mud.
Say the last part again. What requests were denied?
To go, so prior to this subdivision going through, there was a request for two-family, so duplexes, to be done here along 25th. And then there was also a request for this unplatted lot to be duplexes
Okay.
and be that two-family designation. And both of those requests were denied.
And what year was that?
2006.
That was 06. Okay.
6 is when it was.
One of them was in,
2010.
one was in 05, one was in 07.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it came back.
So so the section that's up here on 25th,
Yeah.
after that one was denied, then the subdivision came through for the single-family residential, because that was the designation, right? In 07, and this is outlined in my staff report, in 07, there was a request for this section, same as our subject property, for this section to be also two-family residential. And that one was denied in 2007. Okay. Moving on. So our future land use comprehensive plan. So there's a couple different references because at different points in time, as part of those different requests that were made for changing to the multifamily, changing to the commercial, all of those different pieces, the previous comprehensive plan had different designations than our current comprehensive plan, right? Previous one was done in 1999. We just redid it in 2024. So the current comprehensive plan does call out the subject property as community commercial for its future land use designation. So as a reminder, community commercial is a designation for mid to high intensity residential use, specifically when next to an arterial road. So 17th is an arterial road. This designation is meant to provide a wide array of housing options. The designation should be located on or near major roadways to ensure high levels of access and provide a transition in intensity from low-density residential areas to more intense commercial areas. So like we talked about in this photo, red is commercial zoning. Lands within the community residential designation may include limited commercial uses, such as mixed use, neighborhood corner store, childcare facilities, etc., and then residential uses such as small lot, single family, townhomes, and multifamily. In the staff report, I also called out the density designation for that future land use, which is 8 to 18 dwelling units per acre, or more than 18 dwelling units per acre if you consider the essential criteria. So as a reminder, those essential criteria were intensity. It provides a transition in intensity from adjacent uses or zones. Access is located on a collector or an arterial roadway with adequate access for the proposed use. Infrastructure, the existing or planned infrastructure is adequate to meet the needs of the proposed use. And compatibility provides an appropriate transition in building scale from the surrounding uses. So as I mentioned, so the suggested density range for that land use is 8 to 18. The higher density residential R4 zone would allow for up to 70 units based on the square footage of this lot. So it's 2.65 acres, which is 115,434 square feet. The R4 requires 5,000 square feet for one unit and 1,600 square feet for each additional unit. For comparison, we'll go back to this one. The Darby Village subdivision that it exists next to is a single-family residential neighborhood. It has lot sizes ranging from 0.22 of an acre to 1.14 acres. So 0.22 is the smallest, so that's just over like 8,000 square feet. And then 1.14 acres. So an acre is 43,560. Yes.
It was R4, how many units could have?
70.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, yes, if it stayed at R2, I'm getting.
If it stayed
those
R,
mixed up.
well, okay, so the thing to remember is, so it's not really R2. We say it's similar to R2, but in the Fairview Terrace Plan Use Unit Development, it's called out for single-family residential. And that PUD basically just follows the R2 standards for lot size and dimension. So the R2 requires a 7,500 square foot lot.
And then you said 1,500 additional for every additional unit.
You would not be able to do any additional units because that section is called out in that PUD as single-family
Okay.
dwellings
Understood.
only,
Okay.
no duplexes. Single-family dwellings only.
The zoning, possible zoning change that was discussed earlier, where this is gonna change it's to commercial, whatever, is that gonna change the PUD to allow?
No, so the future land use map from the comprehensive plan is kind of an overarching like direction that we want to go. It is, the future land use designation is separate from the actual zone.
Right.
So you would like it to move that direction, right? Because that's kind of the idea, but that's a 20-year long forecast, right? But the zoning, so in a PUD is a designer zone, right? So they kind of get to pick and choose the things that are included. So that's why they have those 4 categories: single family, 2-family, multi, and then commercial. So in this particular case, it's different than just a standard zone because it's currently designated within that PUD just as single family housing. Okay, so moving on. Now we're gonna look at some photos. And I took a lot because there's a lot to cover. Okay, so, and I'm gonna do some bouncing back and forth, and hopefully this makes sense because I would like to show you where I am on the map and then show the photo that is associated with that. So I'm at kind of the edge of the planned unit development on 24th Ave. So 24th Ave kind of curves up into that cul-de-sac. So on my left-hand side here, no, right-hand side, sorry. My right-hand side is the last undeveloped lot in that Darby Village subdivision. So there's one lot that has not been built on yet. And then you can see there's some open space. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then everything else is single-family dwellings. And then I'm pivoting. And so this is a natural drainage that runs on that west side of the Darby Village. So like you can see this house up here, this is part of that Darby Village subdivision. This is on the flag lot that sits behind that undeveloped lot that was pointing out on my right-hand side. And so this runs all the way down, this kind of abuts or 25th dead ends. And it goes under, there's a culvert, goes under the road and continues down on the other side. So then pivoting again, so now I'm looking down at, so I'm looking kind of north east. So this is part of the Houston Professional Plaza, kind of down the hill below it. So on the left of me is where the rest of that drainage is. It's not pictured, but it's where more of this greenery is coming from. And then moseying up the street, so now I'm standing at the top of 24th Street in the cul-de-sac. So I'm right in front of 1537 24th Avenue. You can see their mailbox. And so you can see single-family dwellings on this side. That's gonna be on the north side of the cul-de-sac. And then looking west, again, single-family dwellings. And then this is, I'm referring to it as an alley in quotation marks, so it's not truly an alley, but it's not just an access easement because it is dedicated city right-of-way. So this goes out of the cul-de-sac and it kind of makes a 90-degree angle, and I'll show you on the map From the cul-de-sac, it does not go all the way up to 25th, but these houses here and here are houses that front 25th. And I have another picture from 25th where you can see the other half of it. So this is an access, it's city right of way. It does contain water and sewer utilities in it. And they do curve up and they provide water and sewer to these folks up here. So on the map, that's this one right here. Cul-de-sac goes up and it goes over, goes south and then east. Then here I am on the other side. So here's the cul-de-sac down here. So, and this one, the right of way does not go all the way through. So I am standing on someone's private property to take this photo. I did ask. And so the city right of way ends down here where the river rock stops, and you can see the darker gravel starts, and that's where it like veers off to the east. So as I put on the slide, I'm standing in between the driveways of 1605 and 1609 on 25th Ave. End of the river rock is where the private property ends and the right of way alley begins. Again, right here. And then on the other side of the cul-de-sac, there is another alley, we're gonna call it, that goes to the subject property. It goes in between 1535 and 1537 24th Ave at the end of the cul-de-sac. It also contains water and sewer lines that go into the subject property. It is not proposed to be an access into the subject property, just like the other one is not proposed to be an access. The other one's very steep. I don't know how you would physically make that an access anyways, but so this is this one over here. And then we're gonna kind of move around. So here's, I'm standing at the end of the dead end on 25th Ave, looking east. The north part of 25th Ave is a portion of that Fairview Terrace Plan Unit development. It is in that Darby Village subdivision. There are 5 single-family dwellings on this side of the road. There are also 5 single-family dwellings on the south side of the road. Those properties are not part of the Darby Village subdivision, are not in Fairview Terrace, and they are all zoned low-density residential R2. So again, just another row of single-family dwellings, and then the road dead ends here. All right, now we're going to get onto the subject property and take some pictures. Okay, so I'm starting on the north end of the subject property. So I'm at the little piece that's right above Houston Plaza. So you can see this is the parking lot to Houston Plaza. As you can see from the photo, there is a substantial topography difference. I believe that I measured it and called that out in my staff report. Hold on, let me find that detail for you guys. Yeah, it's pretty steep. Here it is. Okay, there is a 56-foot elevation drop from the southern property line to the northern property line. And then further from that, because this is that property line, right? Then there is this additional drop off to get down to the Houston Professional Plaza. So quite a bit of elevation difference. I mean, we've all driven up 17th. We all know what that feels like. So then I walked south onto the property a little farther. So I'm standing at that northeast corner, a little farther up from where I took the last photo. So I'm looking southwest, so you can see the single family dwellings here. These ones up here are on 25th. This one, like the brown one, and then this roof line are in that cul-de-sac on 24th. Pivoting around and looking northeast. So again, you can see that roof line of one of the homes on 24th. And this is, on the map, you'll notice there's a little jog that goes behind 1535 24th Avenue. And so this is a picture of that. So this is that kind of line, the house there. And then walking up a little farther into the property, again, you can see the houses that are along 25th up here. You can see 17th over here. Edward Jones building is up here. And then just turning around and you can see the roof of the Houston Professional Plaza as I turn northwest. So then I go to the top of the property. So then you can look east across 17th Street, and this vacant property across 17th Street, as I showed on the previous map, is in that C6 commercial zone. It's also vacant property, sits above the mall. And then standing at that southern end, so you can see this is the fence of one of the houses that abuts 25th Avenue. So I'm looking north. Those single-family dwellings are on the left. 17th is on the right. So the spot where I'm standing is approximately where the applicant is proposing his approach into the subject property to do his buildings. So I'm kind of standing right here-ish. So that would be where the proposed approach would be. A reminder to the commission, you are not traffic engineers, so you are not approving an approach. You are approving the zoning and the density and the use. Things like traffic and approaches are things that get reviewed by Public Works during the building permit phase. Public Works did provide comments in the staff report, and they also provided some very helpful studies that have been done on the 17th Street corridor, not related to this project, just in general, that the city has had done recently. And I do have our development engineer, Pat Severance, here, and he will be able to answer questions if you have them. Yep.
I just wanted to add on to it. So Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney, I also wanted to add, you're not approving this design plan either. The request is related to the density. And so just because they show 3 structures doesn't mean that if approved, that is what the applicant is entitled to. They could change it around as long as it meets the requirements of the zone, but just to make sure that it's clear to everybody, including the applicant, just because this is being reviewed and you have a design that you're presenting doesn't mean the city, the Planning and Zoning Commission, or anyone is endorsing that particular design plan at this stage of the process.
Okay, so a couple more photos. So then I pivoted around. So I'm standing again at that southern end of the subject property. I'm looking along 17th Street. So you can see this is the portion of the road where the 2 lanes become 1. On the right, you can see the dead end sign that goes into 25th. You can see Edward Jones and their construction project that's going on across 17th Street to my left. And then I cross the street. And so now I'm just looking at the subject property from 17th, looking west. And you can see that the subject property does sit above the roadway quite a bit. I did not measure that particular, but it's probably maybe 6 feet. But there is, again, there's lots of elevation differences going on here, right? And then again, standing on the east side of 17th Street, looking northwest across 17th at the subject property. And then again, you can see the roofs of homes on 24th. So I kind of just angled myself. Okay, we're gonna go back to this map for a second. Covered you. Make sure I got all my points covered for you guys. Talk about that. Okay, so our applicant is requesting the amendment to the PUD for that lot to be designated as the higher density residential R4 zone. So like I said, minimum lot size in the R4 zone is 5,000 square feet for 1 unit and 1,600 additional square feet for each unit over 1. When I calculated the 2.65 acres, that's 70 units. So the applicant is proposing to build 3 multifamily residential buildings that are approximately 9,152 square feet in size. And that's based off of these footprints as shown. They would contain 48 dwelling units total. They are proposing them to be 49 feet in height. And they are proposing a subterranean garage in addition to this exterior parking area. The applicant's application refers to open space, but does not show open space on the plan. Does just show some green areas, does not show any interior landscaping though. And normally there would be a requirement for interior landscaping since we're over the number of parking spaces that qualify as a parking lot. Also does not show any ADA stalls. But like I said before, those are not things that the commission is approving or denying, but those are things that maybe the commission should take into consideration that are just not being shown on the plan thus far. Access, like I said, would be from 17th, so they would not be utilizing either of those. You can see this fire access. That's the one that I took the pictures of. We also have our fire marshal here tonight if there are any questions regarding fire access. I did want to bring up, just because I feel like you will hear public comment about it, so the remaining portion of Darby Village does have restrictive covenants on it. The city of Lewiston does not have anything to do with restrictive covenants. We do not participate in HOAs. We do not enforce those restrictive covenants. The subject property is not subject to those restrictive covenants. So this part has documentation stating that they're not, this unplatted lot is not subject to them, but everybody else is. So I would encourage the commission, when hearing testimony, to make sure that you're concentrating on the criteria within the reason statement, the 6 criteria that you are legally bound to for your decision making, and only consider testimony that can be tied to those relevant criteria and standards, because that is what your applicant is supposed to be judged upon. And then, like I mentioned before, so 17th is an arterial street. Our development engineer is here to answer questions. There is a traffic study provided by the applicant in his application package. And then separately, there is also some traffic information, kind of some roadway study information, also provided by Public Works for a corridor study that was done on 17th. Sorry, I'm reading so I don't repeat myself. And the engineering department did comment in the staff report that a traffic impact study would be required as part of the building permit submittal. So that is required to be done by a licensed traffic engineer. That would happen again at that building permit submittal portion. And that would evaluate the proposed connection to 17th Street, as well as traffic volume impacts to the street network, including site distance, safety considerations, et cetera, that may need to be mitigated by the applicant. And those are based on national standards for number of dwelling units and how many trips per day or trips per hour certain kinds of dwellings generate. And then I guess lastly, the subject property is located approximately 1 block south and 1 block east of McSorley Elementary School. We saw that up here, where a portion of their playground is actually in the PUD. That happened because of some land trade stuff that went on between Regents and the school district at some point. And it is also 2 blocks south of the Lewiston Center Mall, Winco Foods, and a Lewiston Transit bus stop. And with that, I will stand for questions that you may have for me, or if you have questions for other staff. Like I said, they are here.
Questions, commissioners?
I can always come back up if some occur to you
I'm
later.
sure more questions will pop up.
On the previous denials, I think you said it was 03 and 05?
05 and 07.
Somewhere, a while back. They were denied. Do you have the rationale behind why they were denied?
Most of it were concerns from the surrounding neighborhood, concerned about traffic. I think those were the 2 big ones, just concerns about the density, because like I pointed out, that section is just single-family residential, where they don't even allow duplexes in that area, even if your lot is big enough. So I think there was concerns, well, I know that there were concerns based on the minutes that I've read from the previous meetings, regarding density, regarding traffic.
Can I just verify, so for the covenant, you stated that this portion does not adhere to the covenant?
Correct, so there was paperwork filed, so restrictive covenants are not filed with the city, they're recorded with the county against properties. So there was paperwork filed with the county at some point that excludes this lot and block from the restrictive covenants that cover the rest of Darby Village subdivision.
And there's nothing by, I don't even know how HOAs work, but a PUD is considered a single unit.
So a planned unit development
Not formally
is
broken
a
off.
zone, it's a zone.
Yeah, so not broken off in any way, not defined differently, since it's currently mimicking R2. And the properties to the west of it, the single families to the west of it are effectively R2, and they have an HOA. Okay. I don't know how HOAs work, why they could just like take a slab off and say the undeveloped isn't gonna fall.
Right, so with, I think what you're asking is, in a PUD, can you slice off undeveloped, I mean, because this
Yeah.
particular property is undeveloped, it's not, there isn't a resident in this particular section. Can you slice that off and remove a restrictive covenant from it?
That has nothing to do with the city or with the decision you guys make, so I don't know, because I am not in charge of that.
I can answer that question.
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Sorry, we didn't mean to exclude you, Jen.
It's okay. Yes, it can be, because a PUD is intended to be a mixture of uses, but it's a master plan for incorporating those different mixtures of uses based on zoning. And at the time it was originally approved, a plan for that entire parcel, which was the conglomerate of all the pieces, was what was approved. And those are the standards that have applied to that parcel regardless of all the changes over time. Now, as time changed, there was also, additional applications to modify it that were approved or not approved based on changing standards of the time. But the underlying basis for approval has remained even to this day. When the city council has considered those in the past, or the planning and zoning commissions have made recommendations, they looked at the original intent of the PUD, which is what was provided as far as the single-family zone and the information that Katie presented. How that eventually got developed is at the discretion of the property developer, and as they developed the individual subdivisions, that's where those conditions and restrictions came onto play, and those commonly referred to as CC&Rs. Those CC&Rs were applied to particular developments.
Oh, gotcha.
Whether or not your neighbor has CC&Rs versus you, even though it's the same developer, it has no bearing on the applicability of those CC&Rs unless you voluntarily elect to add into that
Gotcha.
homeowners association.
Thank you.
So, if there's one even still maintained.
Yeah.
They might be a part of a group that has CC&Rs, and there's no homeowners association to actually enforce them. So I can tell you, even my property, when I bought it, I was provided CC&Rs, but there's no homeowner association to enforce it. Now, my neighbor who might be in the same unit, or the same, fall under the same restrictions, and I, who fall under those, now if one of us does something against those, I have a private right of action to file a lawsuit to force them to comply with those. But if I have a neighbor on my other side that doesn't fall within that, I don't have any legal right to force them to comply with that.
Thank you.
That's the quick way of describing it. It's very complicated how those are enforced. The underlying thing is the city doesn't have any role in it.
Right.
It's a private
It's a
civil
private-
action.
It's a private matter.
Like a
Yeah.
private contract.
Yes,
Yes.
that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And then this particular lot does not fall within those.
Gotcha. Okay,
Like
thank you.
joining a private club and you have to follow the rules.
Yes. Yep.
Say it's not a club, I wouldn't join.
Right.
That can be stricken for the record. Are there any additional questions, Commission, before we hear from the applicant? And of course, you're free to develop more questions as the meeting goes on. All right, well, with that, Katie, we'll let you go for now, and then,
So Dawn has a video that the applicant has asked us to play for everyone, so we will. Name and city residence.
just your name and your city of residence.
My name is Jaden Mader. I live in Genesee, Idaho. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of Millennium Development Group. And when I talk about it in this presentation, I'll refer to it as Millennium or the company sometimes. So we respectfully submit this planned unit development request for approximately 2.65 acres located within the existing PUD, originally approved by the city of Lewiston in or around the year 2001. This request seeks approval to amend the current R2 residential designation within the PUD to an R4 residential designation in order to allow the development of a higher density residential community consisting of 48 dwelling units within 3 four-story buildings, approximately 49 feet in height. Subterranean parking facilities, associated landscaping, site improvements, utilities, and other open space amenities are features of this development. This proposal represents the final major segment of the original approximately 17-acre master plan development area. It is important to note that this property was originally zoned R4 prior to the creation of the existing PUD. In approximately 2001, the company initiated the PUD process in order to create a flexible long-term development plan for the larger 17-acre property. At that time, the future development potential and market conditions for various portions of the property were uncertain. As part of the original approval process, Millennium voluntarily modified portions of the original R4 zoning and established varying land use designations throughout the PUD, including residential, light commercial, and mixed-use areas. Certain portions of the property were down designated to R2 residential classifications with the intent of preserving future flexibility, while infrastructure and surrounding development patterns matured over time. 25 years later, the community's housing needs, development patterns, and infrastructure capabilities have evolved substantially. The proposed amendment reflects the natural progression and completion of the original vision for the property, while responding to current housing demands and comprehensive planning objectives within the city of Lewiston. The company has made substantial private investments into public infrastructure, benefiting not only this development, but also the greater surrounding area of Lewiston. At the sole expense of the developer, significant utility infrastructure was put in place in an area where such services previously did not exist, including approximately 1,800 lineal feet of new water lines, 1,800 lineal feet of new sewer lines, new sewer manholes and associated utility infrastructure, and the extension and expansion of critical public utility services into the upper portion of Lewiston. Additionally, the developer allowed the installation and stubbing of a municipal water line connection into 17th Street, thereby enabling the city of Lewiston to connect to the newer water infrastructure located along Nez Perce Grade Road. This connection opportunity supports the city's long-term utility planning objectives and contributes to the interlooping and redundancy of the municipal water system, as contemplated within utility planning studies previously prepared or commissioned by the city of Lewiston. These infrastructure investments have significantly enhanced the serviceability, reliability, and future growth potential of the surrounding area, and represent a meaningful public benefit created through private development efforts. Millennium also wishes to acknowledge an existing issue involving a portion of 17th Street, which currently traverses the company's privately owned property. Historically, this roadway segment was constructed and has remained located on property owned by Millennium, without formal acquisition proceedings, eminent domain actions, or completed right-of-way dedication processes. For approximately 26 years, the company has continued to pay property taxes on the affected area, while allowing uninterrupted public use of the roadway. The company desires to work cooperatively and amicably with the city of Lewiston to resolve and correct this long-standing matter in a mutually beneficial manner. The company remains committed to collaborating with city officials in good faith to address any right-of-way adjustments, easements, dedications, or other appropriate mechanisms necessary to formalize and resolve the situation, while moving forward constructively with the proposed residential development. The proposed PUD amendment is fully consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and future land use designations applicable to the property. The subject property is identified within the city's future land use map as community residential, a designation intended to support townhomes, multifamily residential developments, and higher density residential uses. The comprehensive plan specifically contemplates residential densities of up to 18 dwelling units per acre within this designation. The proposed development density associated with this PUD amendment is approximately 17.5 dwelling units per acre, which falls within and complies with the comprehensive plan's stated density guidelines. Accordingly, the requested amendment directly aligns with the city's adopted long-range planning policies by encouraging efficient land use patterns, supporting additional housing opportunities, promoting appropriately located multifamily development, utilizing existing infrastructure investments, and enhancing residential housing availability within the community. The proposed development has been thoughtfully designed to provide a high-quality residential environment that integrates modern construction standards, efficient site utilization, and enhanced neighborhood aesthetics. Key project features include 3 architecturally compatible multifamily residential buildings, approximately 48 residential units, 4-story structures with a maximum height of approximately 49 feet, subterranean parking to reduce surface parking impacts and improve aesthetics, professional landscaping and site improvements, internal circulation, and utility infrastructure designed to city standards. The development will provide additional housing opportunities in a location already supported by substantial infrastructure capacity and roadway access. Millennium has also undertaken a preliminary traffic analysis addressing the projected traffic generation, circulation patterns, and overall traffic impacts associated with the proposed development. The findings of this preliminary traffic review demonstrate that anticipated vehicle trips generated by the project can be adequately accommodated within the existing and planned roadway network serving the area. Considerations involving ingress, egress, internal circulation, and overall traffic flow have been evaluated and incorporated into the development planning process. The preliminary traffic report is included as a supporting exhibit to this application and is submitted herewith for review by the city staff, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the City Council. In conclusion, Millennium Development Group, LLC respectfully requests approval of this plan unit development amendment to modify the existing R2 designation to R4 for the subject approximately 2.65 acre parcel. This request is justified and supported by the property's original R4 zoning history, substantial private infrastructure investments benefiting the city, consistency with the Lewiston Comprehensive Plan, existing and planned utility capacity, the community need for additional multifamily housing opportunities, and the project's compatible density and site design. The proposed amendment represents a logical and appropriate continuation of the original PUD vision established more than 2 decades ago and will provide meaningful residential and economic benefits to the city of Lewiston. Millennium appreciates the consideration of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Lewiston City Council and looks forward to continuing to work collaboratively with the city staff throughout the review and approval process. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? If there are no questions, then I will open it up to public testimony. So just your name, your city of residence. You don't have to give us your address if you don't want to. And then the floor is yours.
My name is Mike Thomason, and my wife and I live at 1609 25th Avenue. We've been there since 2020. I'm here to speak against the rezone request. I think if I get it right, we're in a situation where you don't really have the right to make a decision based on our loss of views, our loss of privacy, the added noise in our neighborhood, or our potential loss of home value. Even if I'm accurate in that assumption, I would ask that you still consider the following as you ponder your decisions. And I'm not sure how much of this really can be pondered by you, but I hope some of it can. Entering and exiting the intersection of 17th Street and 25th Avenue can be dangerous due to speed, volume of traffic, and line of sight problems both north and south. We think adding the additional traffic associated with the density of 48 apartment units will only complicate traffic and likely make it less safe. It is not uncommon for 17th Street to be closed for a few days after a snow event because of the steepness of the grade. So please base any decisions about traffic with a focus on our safety. Our home and some others in the neighborhood on both 24th and 25th Avenues have required the installation of pressure pump systems in order to enjoy the normal usage of city system. The city has kindly paid for these systems because I believe they acknowledge the problem is real. We wonder what effect adding the density of 48 more dwelling units will have on our system, and we hope it doesn't create more problems. So please don't let that happen if you can influence it. When I built my home in 2020, I was required by the city to put in stormwater retention on my property in order to keep all the runoff on the property. I didn't notice on the map presented by the developer that there was a site for water storage, but I hope the developer here has the same property requirement that I did, and that they will keep their neighbors from facing runoff after the 2.6 acres is built on and paved over. And as you know, there are currently random sidewalks going north and south on 17th Street. No sidewalks west on 24th. No sidewalks going north on 15th. I'm curious how pedestrians might navigate their way to schools and shopping safely. One other thing I did notice about the map, I didn't see any place not only for stormwater retention, but also garbage facilities. And my hope is that they don't get pressed up against the fences of homes that are only 25 feet away. When I built my home, I was set on having a 9-foot ceiling in the basement because I'm a tall guy and I like to feel like I have some open space. We had a big excavator on site for a couple of days and they couldn't get down below 8 feet. And there was discussion about blasting the rock at that time. And there's no way I would do that to my neighbors. And I hope it won't be allowed here either. Thank you for serving on the P&Z. I know it's not all that much fun. And thank you for considering our position.
Hi, I'm Lindy Kilfoyle. I live at 1635 25th Avenue. The back of my house was in some of Katie's pictures. Jerry, myself, and many of our neighbors purchased our homes based on a reasonable expectation about the long-term character and use of this area. Rezoning stable, established R2 neighborhoods into substantially higher density zones fundamentally upends the expectations we relied upon when choosing where to invest our hard-earned money, purchase our homes, and raise our families. This proposal asks existing homeowners to accept a massive burden. I don't know anyone who would willingly want 3 huge 49-foot-tall buildings constructed just 25 feet from their property line. The negative impacts on our daily quality of life are crystal clear. First, a total loss of privacy and aesthetic character. Towering 4-story buildings will permanently obliterate our neighborhood's visual appeal and invade the privacy of surrounding single-family lots. Second, the environmental disruption. Sudden, dense crowding will inherently bring intrusive light pollution and increase daily noise to a currently calm, peaceful space. That's not even mentioning the grueling months or years of construction disruption we will be forced to live through. Public safety on our local streets deserves your absolute highest attention. Increasing density naturally multiplies vehicles, and more vehicles mean more traffic interactions. The introduction of a 48-unit development will cause a sharp influx of cars entering and moving along 17th Street. This isn't just a matter of minor congestion. It creates valid daily safety risks for our local pedestrians, neighbors, and children. Ultimately, you are making life-altering decisions for existing property owners who are the backbone of this community. This proposal forces us to take on increased traffic, increased noise, increased light pollution, and increased safety hazards, while leaving us with decreased privacy and a permanently damaged sense of community. I strongly oppose this rezoning proposal. I urge you to do what is best for the current residents who live here, pay taxes here, and love this town. Please reject this proposal. Keep the R2 designation and preserve a neighborhood of single-family homes with yards and rooms to breathe. Thank you for your time and consideration. I have a copy of this for Dawn.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Committee.
Oh, can you state your name?
Oh, yeah, my name is Doug James. With my wife Kim James, we live at 1621 25th Avenue, Darby Village subdivision, block 1 of 2. I'm speaking regarding the proposed rezoning from R2 to R4 for block 2 within the Darby Village subdivision. My concerns are based on compatibility, continuity, and consistency with the original intent of the subdivision. First, compatibility. Compatibility with the existing subdivision is a concern. The surrounding area is single-family homes that were developed under the expectation of R2 low-density zoning. Increasing density to R4 would significantly change the character of our neighborhood and introduce a scale of development that is not consistent with what currently exists. Second, continuity. The continuity of the original subdivision intent is important. The subdivision was planned and built as a low-density residential area. Introducing higher-density multifamily housing at this stage does not continue that original vision and would represent a major shift in how the neighborhood functions. Third, consistency. Consistency with height and density standards is also a concern. The proposed 50-foot or 49-foot building height, per the diagram I just handed out, gives you the scale of what we're talking, and these are adjacent to existing property lines. The increased unit density are not in keeping with the surrounding residential structures and would create a visual and structural mismatch within the area. Additionally, since 2008, when we moved in and bought our lot from Mr. Rick Keene, the surrounding area has already experienced a significant change. Winco went in at the bottom of 17th Street, was built there, a large-scale multi-building apartment complex, you know as Canyon View, went in to our south by Clue, that has 144 units. So we've seen a massive increase in traffic up and down 17th Street from those two changes. These developments have already increased traffic on our street and in the immediate area. Adding another higher density project facing our street would further compound traffic, congestion, and overall neighborhood strain. For these reasons, I respectfully ask the Commission to carefully consider whether rezoning this property from R2 to R4 is truly appropriate for maintaining the character and livability of this established neighborhood. I'd also like to add that perhaps a compromise could be reached with the help of the Planning and Zoning Committee, facilitating a collaboration between the current residents of Darby Village and Mr. Keene to reach a solution for Block 2 while still maintaining the R2 zoning status. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
My name's Christopher Stone. I live at 1606 25th Avenue, the street that borders this property. Like my neighbors, I oppose the rezoning request by the Millennium Trust Corporation. The city does need more housing, but this specific proposal is incompatible with our neighborhood. It threatens the safety, the character, and possibly the infrastructure of our community. Others have or will speak to the noise generated, light pollution, blasting concerns, traffic safety, and so forth. I'm going to briefly discuss the quality of life issue, which has also been addressed a little bit already, and also talk about the city's comprehensive plan. So I submitted to Ms. Hollingshead 8 photos that she said she forwarded to you all on the commission. These photos, the distance shown on the photos were measured with a tape measure, and the photos were taken at a focal length that replicates what the naked eye would see if you were standing there next to me when I took the pictures. So when you look at a top-down building proposal or plat, you don't get a sense of the community. You don't realize how close the existing homes would be to these 3 49-foot tall buildings. And I believe the photos that I submitted to you all will give you a sense of that, especially the courthouse overlay photo that I created where I took a picture of the 48-foot Nez Perce courthouse and superimposed it on that lot to scale. Now, people buy lakefront and oceanfront property and enjoy water access in the beach. One of the reasons people built in this neighborhood was to enjoy the panoramic view of the LC Valley. And I realize none of this is legal, but it's just quality of life. The aesthetics will be seriously degraded by these buildings, and the resale value of our homes could very well drop. Then there's the loss of privacy. Imagine if you live in one of the homes that's 25 feet away, and you're having a cookout with your friends in the backyard, and your condo neighbors on the second, third, and fourth floor, 25 feet away from you, are looking down, watching you having your company. Now I'd like to talk about the comprehensive plan the city has. The 2024 comprehensive plan called Envision Lewiston 2044. I've not read it cover to cover, but I looked over it, and I made some notes of statements that I would like to quote or just discuss. So I quote, "Lewiston is becoming a less affordable place to live, with home prices out of reach for the median household income." Then the plan talks about the need for what's called the missing middle type of homes, such as duplexes, townhomes, and small multifamily dwellings. It goes on to say that the need for these types of homes was a consistent theme in the community surveys and stakeholder interviews conducted when they made this plan. Stakeholder interviews also noted a particular need for starter homes or move-up housing, the shortage of which currently poses a challenge for retaining young residents and attracting businesses and employees. Now, this proposed project doesn't address any of those concepts, and you saw that opening video. With a price tag on their website of $600,000 to $800,000, it's definitely not affordable. It's obviously not small. It's not a starter home, and it's not move-up housing. And when you watch that glossy, slick video, I'm sure you thought this looks like something in Vegas or Reno, not something that overlooks the Winco shopping center. So in conclusion, most of us would like to see this land developed. It's not been they have not shown very good stewardship of this lot. There's mounds of concrete blocks. They let the noxious weeds grow for years. So we'd like to see it developed, but in a way that adds stability and beauty to our neighborhood. But this rezoning request is in the wrong project, in the wrong place. It alters the essential character of a stable neighborhood and strains our public resources. So for this reason, we respectfully urge the commission to uphold the integrity of our comprehensive plan and deny this rezoning request. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service to the community.
My name is Jerry Kilfoyle. I live at 1635 25th Avenue. My lot is on 25th, sits directly south to proposed building number 1 on the map. My lot is 9,000 square feet. It's holding one house and one HVA system. The proposed building, just 7 car lengths away, shares the exact same 9,000 square footprint, and it will pack 16 units, towering nearly 50 feet in the air, completely obliterating our view of the Lewiston Hill. Let's do the math on noise pollution. 1 unit requires 1 HVAC compressor. This building will require 16. Multiply that times 3 proposed buildings, you get 48 AC compressors cycling 24/7 from April through October, all crammed into an area the size of a high school football field. There's no containment barrier that could completely silence 48 breathing compressors. Furthermore, modern high-efficiency gas furnaces vent sideways, usually through plastic pipes. They produce a constant, irritating, buzzing sound. Multiply that by 48 units, and the surrounding neighborhood faces a relentless wall of noise. Then there's the light pollution. These 3 50-foot-high monoliths will look less like a residential community and more like a brightly lit motel. To quote the old Motel 6 commercial, "We'll keep the lights on for you." Well, this one will definitely keep the lights on for us all night long. Now let's look at the density math. The existing Darby Village subdivision has 13 lots occupying roughly 7 acres. This development proposed introduces 3 times that density, putting 48 units in a space that should represent only a fraction of our existing neighborhood footprint. And the developer's traffic summary is fundamentally flawed. It fails to account in the reality of daily delivery trucks, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, and others that are always log jamming our streets. Planning and zoning must consider how a development impacts established residents. Putting this complex here is like dropping an ocean-going cruise ship into a quiet harbor filled with cabin cruisers. It doesn't blend in just because they both float. That enormous cruise ship brings noise, blocks views, creates pollution, and destroys the peaceful harbor that it invaded. When I saw the blueprint of this 50-foot monster looming 7 car lengths from my backyard, I immediately thought of Godzilla, an unnatural entity towering over a frightened established community just waiting to pounce. Aside from a data center or a nuclear power plant, I can't think of anything worse for these 2.6 acres. This behemoth does not fit next to a single-family home area. I urge the commission to protect our neighborhood, keep the R2 designation, and build homes that seamlessly flow with the already established community that we live in. Thank you. Oh. Thank you, that's you.
Steve Thomas, 1638 25th Avenue. I'm opposed to this zoning change. I'm a resident of Lewiston for the last 30 years. This is my 3rd time before the Planning and Zoning Commission trying to protect my single-family neighborhood from this building company. This current proposal is worse than the previous 2. Common sense suggests that placing this 3-headed monolith smack in the middle of a single-family neighborhood is not wise. After turning this builder down when they wanted to change the zoning to allow duplexes, why would we even consider building 3 16-family units in the same neighborhood? I know our community needs more housing. I've been the director of Family Promise Homeless Program for 15 years, but $900,000 luxury condos targeting the super rich makes no sense to me. This builder assured many that the view would not be blocked and the area would remain single-family housing. Hold him accountable. Reject this proposal. Steve Thomas, 1638 25th Avenue. Thank
you. I'm a little under the weather, so please bear with me. To the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm Pat Kelly. I live at 1535 24th Avenue in Lewiston. I directly border the Block 2 property. We bought our home 14 months ago, and we looked at the junk pile that sits back there, and we looked at the zoning, and we thought someday there'll be nice homes built in there, much like ours. We were okay with that. Now the rules want to change. I have read and reread the developer's cover letter to the city. Thank goodness I got to hear it again tonight in its entirety. It's filled with several topics that have absolutely no bearing while we were all here today. From the disputed property lines on 17th to infrastructure benefits to property history. Speaking of property history, long before it was R4, I'm guessing that property probably belonged to the Nez Perce tribe. How far do we want to go back? We're not, excuse me. All these topics were included in an attempt to leverage the city. We are not here to play let's make a deal. We are here, however, to support the city of Lewiston and the Planning and Zoning Board in their quest to decide if a zoning change for Darby Village Block 2 from R2 low density to R4 high density meets or exceeds all compatibility issues and currently implemented proper, safe, and acceptable development standards and protocols to ensure all City of Lewiston citizens can keep and maintain their lifestyle with little or no impact on the quality of their lives. This is only the reason we're here tonight, and for the record, I do oppose this zoning change. The traffic entry and exit to and from the property is one of my concerns. I can destroy the developer's sugar-coated traffic survey results with 3 vehicles. Vehicle 1 wishes to exit the property, drive down a 1-lane driveway and make a left-hand turn on 17th Street across 2 lanes of oncoming traffic. It has to wait until the lanes are clear. Vehicle 2 wants to enter the property from a northbound lane, cross 2 lanes of traffic, but Vehicle 1 has already got the road plugged. Vehicle 3 in the southbound lane wishes to enter the property, but again, the lane is full. In a matter of a few seconds, 2 lanes on 17th Street are blocked. For real-world answers, not biased statistics printed on paper, just ask the residents of 25th Avenue how difficult access to 17th Street can be. How do emergency medical vehicles or fire trucks deal with this? City maps show a 21-foot wide easement between 1535 and 1537 on 24th Avenue. She pointed that out. The city calls it a utility corridor. The developer calls it his fire lane on his website. Which is it? Are fire trucks to gain entry into this property via this corridor or from 17th Street? The developer's proposal is asking for imprudent city planning with no positive outcome. We all have more questions than answers. What about foot traffic? How do kids get to and from school? There's no sidewalks on 17th or 24th Avenue. Are they walking through the neighborhood yards and then down the middle of the street? It's the quickest way. What about dogs? Where are they supposed to do their business? In the surrounding neighbor's yard? They don't want to deal with that. How does the developer propose to protect the bordering neighborhoods from these concerns and associated burdens and disturbances? On behalf of the concerned residents of the city of Lewiston, I respectfully ask that you use all pertinent common sense safety protocols for city, street, and site development and apply it here. Make your decision based on insight and knowledge and ensure all compatibility issues and proper development standards are met. With all due respect, I request the city and planning and, I request the city and planning and zoning deny the R4 change for Darby Village Block 2 and maintain its current R2 classification. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Good evening. I'm Gina Thomas, and I've lived at 1638 25th Avenue since 1994, when this was just a field of dreams. There was no houses there. And this is the third time that I've come before the planning and zoning, and later on, and during those 3 times I went to the city council meetings to ask that the field not be rezoned for multifamily. I was here, I had 2006 and 2010, but maybe it was 2005 and 2007. It was a long time ago. But again, I ask that you not rezone this to R4. Especially after I learned tonight that it could hold up to 72 units. We're all freaked out over 48 units, but I can't imagine having 72 units on this proposed amount of land. Back to my notes. I'm a teacher at Whitman Elementary, which means that every day at 8:20, I sit at the stop sign at 25th Avenue before exiting north onto 17th Street to get to work. As you have seen in the picture, 17th Street was recently updated so that the two southbound lanes merge into one lane right at 25th Street. The traffic coming down crests over the hill above Vineyard, and then cars usually pick up speed as they go down the street. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Frogger video game, but that's what it feels like exiting 25th Street. I know when I stood before this committee in the earlier 2000s, my street was rated as an F. And the developer had said, well, it can't get any worse. Well, you're right, it can't, because it's already an F. Nothing has been done to improve our street. It is still an F-rated street. And now with this development, they're wanting to add, I don't know how many cars. It could be 48 cars if everybody owns one car, but these are big condos and they're all 3 bedrooms. There could be 2 to 3 cars per condo, which could be well over 100 cars trying to get to work, literally 75 feet below 25th Avenue. I don't know what that will do to 17th Street. I agree with what's already been said. It will be a living nightmare. You've seen the size of these buildings. It doesn't fit with our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is all single family. We love our neighborhood. We love our neighbors. And one thing that we've loved about this is that we've gotten together and we've gotten to know our neighbors a little bit better. We do want this area to be developed, but we want it to stay R2. We want it to stay single families, and we want it to fit with what we are used to having there. Thank you for your time.
My name is Stevie Willows. I live at 1636 25th Avenue. So I agree with everything our neighbors have said. Our road is horrendous. It's Frogger getting out every morning. My perspective comes from the safety in the school district. We bought our house in 2014 knowing our neighborhood was R2, single family home. We want to raise our children, or just our one. And then knowing that McSorley was just right down over the hill, he can walk down through our neighbor's little yard and get to school safe, and same thing coming home. Stay away from 17th Street. There are no sidewalks, there's no safe walking anywhere down by McSorley. And then the traffic and the crosswalks are horrendous as well. So adding more density, it says it in the name, high density R4 from the R2. So adding more density is just gonna affect our safety and our neighborhoods. I'm not opposed to responsible growth and development, but it needs to be just that, responsible, and might I add, safe. I make a phone call every year about the corner of 17th Street and 25th Ave. I make it to the public. I don't even know who I have to call every year because they have to then call Millennial Group to have it weed eated, because every year I'm gonna get T-boned when I pull out. So I have concerns regarding the traffic safety near our schools. I have concerns about our school's ability to absorb the increase in the population and hopefully not push our existing students like myself or my son out of that district, since they're already established and our school is not big enough to absorb any more. We are at max capacity at McSorley Elementary. And the overflow, parking and traffic onto those neighboring streets. Like I said, the school zone and the crosswalks are very unsafe right now. Nobody stops or people park in the crosswalks. There is no extra parking for those houses on the streets, and that's right next to Regents. The whole parking lot of Regents is open, but nobody can use it. The lack of existing crosswalks and sidewalks are already unsafe, mixed with horrible parking throughout the school year. So I also hope that the study was conducted during the school year, not in the summertime when there's not a lot of traffic going in and out all throughout. I also have concerns regarding our fire and emergency response's ability to get in and around the neighborhoods. They're already very tiny, small, single lane streets anyways. Now let's add some parking on the side. So as stated in the criteria and standards for rezoning, and also in my opinion, I think that the effects of this proposed rezone are anticipated to place undue burden and stress upon our school district McSorley and also the neighborhoods around it. So I'm respectfully asking that you deny this proposal, because I think changing the zone to R4 just kind of also gives the development the ability to do as they please. It can be anywhere from this 48-unit condo idea to a 72-unit apartment complex that just spreads out everywhere. So, thank you for your time.
My name's Michelle Phillips. I live at the end of the 24th Avenue cul-de-sac. I'm one of the homes that would be literally 25 feet from a 4-story building, and I can't even imagine looking at my backyard and seeing nothing but building. I don't want to reiterate what everybody else said. I completely agree with them, and I totally oppose a change in the zoning.
I'm Karina Williams. I live at 1533 24th Avenue, and I've lived here since 2018. The plan rezoning doesn't conform with the City of Lewiston's comprehensive plan and the vision for 2044. It goes against the goal H.1.1, improve quality of and access to affordable housing. In the vision of Lewiston 2044, it states that greater diversity in housing types, include smaller units, is likely to yield more affordable options and may better meet other needs of the city residents, which includes a growing number of retirees. The Millennium Development Group has nothing to do with affordability, when according to the website, the starting price starts at $625,000 and goes up to $895,000. According to the Envision Lewiston 2044 neighborhood residential, buildings should respect the scale and character of the existing built environment regarding size, mass, and design. Also, according to the comprehensive plan goals, LU.2.2 allow for density by ensuring compatibility. Build additional housing types in a scale appropriate ways that fit to the existing neighborhood. This project would overwhelm our neighborhood. It's like taking the Courtyard by Marriott, dividing it up into 3 buildings and putting it in that acreage. Views will be blocked, landscapes will be forever changed, and homes will lose all privacy and value. The negative impacts have been talked about: traffic, fire, excess, the water issue. I'd like to deal with the parking garage issue. The underparking we are on a basalt, solid basalt. I'm a daughter of a mining engineer and have helped my father when he was blasting through solid glacier rock in Mendenhall Glacier in Juneau, Alaska. I know how easy it is for a blast to go wrong, no matter how safe you're trying to be. Blasting basalt rock in Lewiston presents significant challenges due to the extreme hardness of the basalt. Severe ground vibrations, fly rock risk to neighboring structures, and structural damage. Normal vibrations go out about 1,000 feet and decay safely in perhaps about 300 feet to 1,000. Because the basalt is dense and very hard, vibrations travel further. These ground vibrations can crack foundations, drywall, and surrounding residential areas. Unfortunately, damage to foundations, water, and sewer lines might not be seen immediately. Most of the houses that are in the Darby Village are well within the danger zone. Because damage to foundations, water, and sewers might not be seen immediately, we will have a battle on our hands to prove that the damage was caused by blasting. Lastly, change in circumstances. You've heard people have been here 3 times to talk to you guys about not changing the zoning. This project is much bigger. What's changed? It hasn't. I respectfully ask that you refuse this change from R2 to R4. Thank you. Appreciate it.
My name's Adam Willows. I live on 25th Ave, South Side, and I'm absolutely against this. I bought my house in 2014, knowing that it was zoned for R2, and I didn't have to worry about a skyscraper being built, blocking our view. And I just don't see. I don't want an apartment complex blocking my view, creating a bunch of light pollution, noise from all the HVAC equipment and car traffic. Pulling onto 17th Street from 25th Ave is already a death sentence. I have a large camp trailer and a large jet boat. Most of the time pulling out, I just have to pull out and hope people hit the brakes. People drive up the hill 50 miles an hour all the time. I don't understand how they think they're gonna get a fire truck into this place with one entrance while cars are trying to get in and out, crossing traffic. It makes no sense. On to building it, it's all basalt. The whole lot is basalt, so they're gonna be blasting just like she said. I don't want it compromising my foundation or my neighbors. I don't wanna listen to them jackhammer for months. The whole zoning to R4, I'm 100% against. I don't believe that it fits our little neighborhood, and I don't wanna see it. So, thank you.
Additional comments?
Did you show them the picture?
Yeah, I handed it out. Okay. No additional comments from the public. Commissioners, you don't have any questions immediately, then I will give the applicants. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Did we have any additional testimony from the public, Dawn?
So I just need to confirm that you all received 11 comments in your actual packet. And then on June 5th, I emailed 2 public comments to everybody. Got that. On the 8th, I emailed public comment 1. I did get a response back from them. It was from Beth Everett. It just says, thank you for letting her know she received my email. I received her email. She made a mistake. It was 25th Avenue instead of street. In addition, I'd like to mention that the water pressure is very low in the area. Additional usage by many people will not solve the problem. Thank you for your time. Katie emailed everybody on the 9th a public comment that had all the pictures with it. Everybody received that. And then I have one that you guys have not received. To Liston Planning and Zoning Commission, we moved to Darby Village in 2019 because the neighborhood was met most of our needs, including a view, quiet surroundings, and low traffic. We oppose rezoning to allow high-density housing on Block 2 Darby Village subdivision because it is substantial changes the safe, quiet neighborhood characteristics we value. Specifically, 1, increased hazards from car and walking traffic on 14th Street. This is made worse by lack of sidewalks and turn lanes on 14th Street. 2, increased hazard from walking traffic on 24th Ave, which also lacks sidewalks. Foot traffic would be forced to use fire lanes or across private property. 3, the area already lacks parks or areas for children to play. High-density housing could mean more children with inadequate facilities put at a higher risk. 4, the proposed 4-story building would create privacy issues for adjacent homes that can't be solved with fences. 5, our current low water pressure issue would be exacerbated. Thank you. Again, we oppose the proposed rezoning from R2 to R4 and urge the commission to keep a low-density residential zoning designation on Darby Village Block 2. Gary and Judy Ferguson. And then just let me check just before you close the public hearing to make sure we didn't get anything. That is all I have.
If there's no other public testimony, then I will give the applicant an opportunity to comment, rebut anything that has been discussed, said. Would the applicant like to respond?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and respond. I appreciate everybody coming out. My name is Ray Keene. I am the big bad wolf here. Since we're with all the clever comments tonight, I was intrigued by them. I'm going to go ahead and address these things in a very amicable and respectful manner because I do respect these people's comments and their thoughts. First thing I'd like to talk about, I made a lot of notes. I want to remind everybody we're not here to address all the issues, the water issues and all these things, but I'm going to because a lot of these people are very uninformed of some of the really incredible things that we're bringing to light. First thing I'd like to talk about is I got a phone call last summer from JUB, John Watson, who I know very well. And John emailed me the 17th Street improvements that are currently being, how would I say this, Katie? They're in the works right now. There's a whole, yes, the city engineering.
I would probably refer to
Yeah,
Public Works. 'Cause
Yeah, Public Works has already got 17th Street.
I don't know.
They're
if that
looking for
is-
grants right now. I think they've got their grants, but we're looking for a lot of improvements. So more traffic lanes, the problem with the encroachment on my property and sidewalks. And I've made a decision with them jointly to adhere to these and address these concerns that they have. So that's the first thing. There's some really nice street improvements. I'm gonna go down through the notes I made blasting. There's not gonna be any blasting. There's all kinds of new modern methods of types of fracturing rock. This particularly basalt is extremely fractured. They have ways of doing grout fracturing now. They pour grout into it and it just expands and just pops over like a week or two time. And then equipment just removes it. It's very simple. There's no blasting, it's old school. And if there was, by the way, we were the first ones in the country, literally, in 2000 to blast 15 feet from fiber optic lines. And I exhaled when the first blast went off. And Julian was there. We blasted, we stood on the patio of Galen Haas's office. And all I know is I called up ahead and said, do you have telephone service? It didn't fracture the fiber optics, which are glass lines. They would break if the blasting had that much impact. And now we have no intentions of using old school blasting. There's a lot of new modern methods. And I'm glad that we're not building a skyscraper. It's a very low, it's called a low-rise building. Skyscrapers are usually 20 stories or more. So another thing, I heard a lot of comments. Like I said, I want to address these things since that seemed to be the issue here, is all these little ideas that people have in their head. HVAC, old school systems. We don't use HVACs with compressors running and 48 of them. We're using hydronics, modern day hydronics inlaid into the floor for heating and cooling that are very efficient. You don't even hear them. They're just literally liquid cooled glycol, cooled, zero compressors. Low impact construction methods. Since I own a construction company for 25 years, I decided I did not want to have 40 men running around in circles bumping into each other like the Three Stooges. We opted to research modern day building methods. Pre-stress seems to be the way to go. They build the building in a new $1 billion plant that Knife River just built in Spokane Valley. They did Walt Worthy's buildings. We toured the 44-story downtown, the name of the tower. The tower. What's the name of the hotel?
Davenport.
Oh, the Davenport. So we toured the Davenport and seen they built the Davenport 44-story in 9 months, completely shelled in. They anticipate one building of ours in 6 weeks. They build it in the factory. It's beautiful. Structurally, the panels, and then the glazing comes in. The glazing contractor comes in from Utah, puts the glazing in about 30 days. In 2 months, 2.5 months, we have a superstructure finished. There's no saws and drills and guns, stuff like that. That's old school method. We're not building wood structures, which again, I know Julian will love that because they don't like wood structures. They like type 2B is what is called combustible structures. Okay, so before I go into my reading here, these types of buildings, these types of condominiums, we've missed out as a community. We've missed out on recruiting some really top-level doctors that most people have to commute to Spokane. When I did the Houston Plaza, I had 300 people at planning and zoning and the city council protesting it. And it was originally an R4, and I said, well, I can do low-income housing, and I didn't want to do that. I opted to do professional building offices, which brought in a lot of professionals. We were able to get an endoscopy center and some other really professional. We got the St. Joe's has the cancer treatment center there now too. So also I heard a lot of people talking about the CC&Rs. There are no established CC&Rs. There's never been a committee established or no HOA in that subdivision. So under Idaho statutes, and I'm sure our city attorney knows this, after 10 years, they're abandoned. They're automatically abandoned. Let's talk about this water line. Julian and our city engineering and our public works department is pretty ecstatic about what we're proposing. We have a map here. I didn't submit one to Katie. I might have, I'm not sure. There's a lot of stuff I submitted. I can resubmit it later. But there's, over here at Nez Perce Plaza by the former, they've changed the name so much. The Cable One, yes. I don't even know what to call it anymore. The McCann company has a water line running there. We are going to interconnect this water line. Comes out to about 1,650 lineal feet. I've been talking to Dustin Johnson, our public works director, about working together with him. He is all about it to get this interconnected. We ran some preliminary numbers. We brought our fire flows up to almost 4,200 gallons per minute at 20 PSI. So it's going to be very minimal. I'm addressing Julian because he loves hearing stuff like this. There's nothing greater this guy loves than to hear good fire flows. I know him all too well. We've discussed this. We've had many conversations on other parcels that I own around the valley. So we do have a really nice addition to bringing up the fire flows, interconnecting two integral parts of the city that will bring the water flows really high. Without this development, this isn't going to happen. City's not going to foot the bill for this, but I am. And it will help enhance a lot of different areas for McCann's too. So interconnecting two integral parts of development has been really wonderful. The complete surrounding, Knife River has proposed, given us a proposal on an 8-foot aesthetically beautiful looking wall that goes around the place. We're not allowing people to just walk onto the premises or walk out. It's got a gated entrance with a full-time security guard that's going to be at the front gate. As far as our focus is, is zoning and complying with the established city laws for growth in the comprehensive plan. And it goes back down underneath what everybody's concerns are the city requirements for parking. We have to adhere to parking, garbage disposal, dumpsters disposal, stormwater, green space, fire protection, fire access. And we have professional engineers that work for us together mutually with the Public Works Department to cover all these. They're not going to allow me a building permit without all aspects being covered. Been through this before. So let me start out again here at the beginning with a respectful Millennium Development Group appreciates the participation of neighboring property owners and residents throughout the review process. We recognize that any proposed development may generate questions and concerns regarding traffic, neighborhood character, property values, building height, and overall compatibility. The following responses are provided to address those concerns and demonstrate that the project's consistency with the City of Lewiston's adopted planning policies. 1, consistency with the city's comprehensive plan. First and foremost, the proposed density of approximately 17.5 dwelling units per acre is 100% consistent with the community residential designation of the City of Lewiston's adoptive comprehensive plan. That's why the city has this, so that it can grow in a positive way, not stay stagnant for years. Otherwise, there would still be a little farming community sitting down where Clearwater Paper is, because I'm old enough to remember how it was a little farming community down there with fruit trees. The comprehensive plan anticipates residential densities up to 18 dwelling units per acre within this designation. The project therefore aligns directly with the city's long-term vision for growth in residential development. The proposal is not a deviation from any adopted policy, but rather an implementation of such. Historical zoning of the property, we know this. It was originally, long before I changed it to a PUD, it was a R4 under the Fairview Terrace planned unit development. During the PUD process, portions were redesignated and flexibility for future development opportunities. And here we are, almost a quarter of a century later. Yeah, I've aged that much since this. We want to grow with the city. We want to bring some professionals here. The current request largely restores a residential density pattern consistent with the property's historical zoning and planning history. So, traffic impacts. A preliminary traffic study has been completed and submitted as part of the application. The study indicates that anticipated generated by the development can be accommodated within the existing roadway network. Engineers do this, not me. We don't make this stuff up. I know people have frustrations with it. I live out in a rural area. I have problems getting onto the Waha Road sometimes. There's a little hill that I can't see over. Nobody can. We've had some accidents on Powell Road and Buchanan Road because of that. The county doesn't want to address it. They don't want to spend $1 million tearing down a little hill that we can't see over. There's those problems that occur in development. The Millennium Development Group remains committed to working with the city staff and traffic engineers on any reasonable access, visibility, or safety improvements identified during the review process. The project will continue to comply with all city traffic requirements and recommendations. Water infrastructure and fire protection benefits. Again, I'll reiterate, Millennium Development Group or Millennium Trust has invested substantially in public infrastructure benefiting both this development and the surrounding community. Preliminary engineering studies evaluated interconnection of the lower water system near Nez Grade with the developer installed water system along 17th Street. The proposed interconnection includes approximately 1,650 lineal feet of 8-inch C900 water line and associated fire hydrants. Not even going to be on my land. However, I am footing the bill for it to upgrade this for the city. City has no interest in paying me a dime for it. The improvements are anticipated to provide approximately 4,250 gallons per minute at 20 PSI. These upgrades significantly improve the fire protection, water system reliability, and long-term service capacity for future development along the 17th Street corridor. These improvements represent a substantial public benefit funded through private investment. Property values. There is no objective evidence has been ever presented demonstrating that a professionally designed luxury condominium development will negatively impact surrounding property values. These proposed condominiums are expected to be marketed at values significantly higher than many surrounding residences. The project includes quality construction, professional landscaping, structured parking, and controlled access features and points. 6, the building height and views. Building heights are consistent with the requested zoning classification and the comprehensive plan. While any new development may alter existing sightlines, private views are generally not protected absent specific legal restrictions. The design efficiently utilizes the site's topography while providing needed housing opportunities. Now I know that I'm going to add this in and kind of ad-lib this. People have talked about affordable housing. Why is everybody so bent on affordable housing? We need housing for professionals too. We have missed out on an immense amount of opportunities, and I have had specific conversations with people from Seattle. I'm not going to say names of very highly professional doctors that wanted to move here and scoffed at what is offered to live here. They live differently. They don't live like we do. I live in a normal home. Most of these people live in normal homes. These people want to live in something a little bit more eloquent. They want to be private. They want to be left alone. And I've heard somebody say, well, there's 3 bedrooms. We don't have really any floor plans. And by the way, those costs are for a shell. They can build out their interior, spending $150,000 and go as high as $500,000 or $600,000 on their interior. We're incorporating on our website bathtubs that are $25,000. I didn't even know people lived like this, but this is all part of all of our architects that we're working with and our engineers. And there's a very high demand of this. What generation am I from? What's it called? Boomers. The boomers. There's a lot of boomers that have money I spoke to a lady from Atlanta, Georgia, and she says, I'm living in a $2 million condominium and I'm looking to trade up to a bigger one. I'm like, like, where do these people get this money? I'm out of the loop. Protective covenants and CCNRs, I'm gonna touch bases on this again. Questions regarding historical covenants are separate from the city's land use review process. The city's decision should not be based upon zoning standards, infrastructure capacity, comprehensive consistency, and public welfare considerations. The city's decision should be based on zoning standards, infrastructure capacity, and comprehensive plan consistency, and public welfare considerations. Any private covenant issues are generally matters of private civil interpretation or enforcement. Housing needs, community benefits. The project will provide 48 new residential units in a location already served by substantial infrastructure. Development will expand housing opportunities and support the city's housing objectives. The project will increase the local tax base and make efficient use of existing public infrastructure investments. And by the way, I would probably be very against this too if it was one of the Orchard's little alleyways for traffic, but it's not. We have 17th Street, which is 3 lanes, and I believe what I've seen on there would be almost 4 lanes. And the terrible engineering right below Galen Haas's office or Fairview Dental Clinic is horrifying. If that was me doing that engineering, they would have never approved it, and nor would I have approved it. It almost looks like it dead ends. So they're gonna shift the road and make it more straightened out, which they already did on my property, but we're gonna straighten it even more. Good neighbor commitment. I mean, to conclude with this, the Millennium Development Group remains committed to working cooperatively with neighboring property owners and city officials. The company has invested significantly in infrastructure improvements throughout Fairview Terrace, Darby Village, and the Houston Plaza. The proposed development represents a logical completion of the original master plan community and supports the city's vision of future growth. And just in conclusion, the consistency with the city's comprehensive plan, the proposed density of this project is 100% consistent with the community residential designation of the city of Lewiston's adoptive comprehensive plan. And I think we submitted the preliminary traffic study. It's 100% in compliance. And then we'll do a further comprehensive traffic study if needed, if the city public works department would like it. And I think that's about it. Let me double check my notes here. Yep, that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Just a clarifying question, and I realize that traffic can tangentially touch our discussion or touch our decision, but you have brought it up and residents have brought it up. So you mentioned that you're gonna make road improvements. I guess I'm just a little bit unclear. Is the city paying for that? Are you as the developer paying for that?
The city is already in the progress. They approached me in July of 2025. And John Watson with JUB Engineers, of which I know him quite well. I was kind of surprised when I seen the phone ring and he says, "You buy your computer?" And he emailed me 3 different variations. I know that Shannon Grow has indicated that they've brought it back to the surface. No, I am not paying for it. They are paying for it. But is a quasi-public working together with them to fix the encroachment, I'm willing to work with them 100%. So as the city has a grant that they're, I guess, pursuing to get this infrastructure, I said I would work with them on any excavation they need. I'm working with Avista Utilities about removing the power lines and getting a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Sidewalks, an extra lane, gonna be beautiful.
Are there any other questions for the applicants? All right, thank you.
You're welcome, thanks.
Commissioner, are there any additional questions before we go into discussion?
I think a lot of discussion, or a lot of comments have been made by the applicant concerning information we haven't heard, and it was not included in the staff report about public works and street changes and things like that. And I don't know if it's appropriate for us to ask
We have
Do
one of our
have a
engineers.
representative
our engineer
Public
to
Works.
step forward to address some of
provided the
that.
corridor study that was in your packet.
Yeah,
He is here to speak to it.
yes, the corridor study, but
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I guess there's a couple topics there we could talk about.
who are you?
Pat with engineering.
Only.
Pat Severs with engineering. Couple of topics, one being the frontage improvements. A couple of years ago, the city commissioned JUB to look at some concepts of what would 17th Street look like if improvements were to be completed, would be the most efficient way to get pedestrian connectivity from just north of this development all the way up to Preston and 5th or 17th, whatever it's called by the time it gets up there. And so they looked at a couple alternatives, one being sidewalk on the west side and sidewalk on the east side, or maybe some combination of both. Those were all done in conceptual layouts, and that's where it's at. I think they worked with adjacent landowners, kind of ran some ideas by them. This is what we're looking at, and took their input. And so we've got a design, we don't have a design, we've got a concept of someone were to come forward and need to do frontage improvements. Someone were to develop a parcel, their requirement is to develop the frontage improvements. We could give them a starting point. This is where you would go from.
So at this point, it's still all conceptual. There's nothing actually in the works to be done.
Right, that project was completed and that's where it is. There's no grant to speak of.
Can you speak to the encroachment that keeps getting?
I think the city attorney could. Do you want me to talk about the traffic impact real quick?
Yeah, we can go back to the encroachment.
Yeah, we'll go back to encroachment.
Okay, the traffic impact, I did get, so there's a couple of steps in a traffic impact analysis. When we look at developments, the first thing a developer does is produce a traffic generation statement. And that gives us a gauge of how much traffic are they going to generate and is this warranted for further study. What I received from Millennial was that traffic generation statement, and they're just on the threshold of having to complete further studies. They may have completed more studies, but I haven't seen those yet. So that'd be our next step, is to work with them, identify some areas of interest to look at as they evaluate, the 25th possibly, and its interaction with the approach they're proposing to make sure we have, safe separation and ingress and outgress, or whatever that's called, opportunity. So in some ways to address, it would be turn bays. It allows traffic, if they're heading northbound, to get out of the traffic lane and not hold traffic up behind them to get in and out of their approach. But, that takes a lot of traffic, and they're just on the threshold of tripping a trip generation statement or a traffic report. So my gut tells me that there probably wouldn't be a lot there for them to have to complete. The traffic on 17th Street, somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 cars a day. They're estimating they might generate 400 to 600 cars a day from this development. So 5% increase in traffic is what you're kind of looking at.
As of today, there is nothing in the works to expand 17th to 4 lanes or?
There's no funding for it. It's not on the top of the priorities.
Well, this was a question I actually did have was long-term range goals. This is an arterial. We all know how it works. After 21st gets jammed, then we start finding other ways up. I never go up 21st. I always go up 17th.
Yep, yeah.
And developing commercial on the other side long-term, I would hate to see this become a four-lane corridor all the way up.
Yeah.
Because that starts
I
to
don't know
encroach
how you
on
get
residential.
4 lanes all the way up.
The topography, I mean, I live on Vista Avenue, the topography of 17th, the cost of expanding that into a 4-lane road.
Well, and the homes
Yeah.
right up at the top,
Exactly.
beyond Stewart are like boo, yeah.
Right there.
So that's, as we're eyeballing 17th and what could or couldn't happen to it.
I'd like to measure the curb to, where there is completed curb to curb. I think it can accommodate 4 lanes already. So, it is an arterial, and the standard for arterials is 3 to 4 lanes, full build out.
Well, it is 3 lanes and then it becomes 2.
And then it merges into
It decreases as we enter the orchard.
But people don't have front yards to lose moving up. They just don't.
No.
Yeah, that's really tight.
That's what I was trying to think of,
Off topic.
where, if anything,
Off
up
topic,
there's
yeah, Valerie.
curb to curb up
Bring it in.
top.
Bring it in.
So that,
Down below, yes.
any other questions I can?
The water connection from Nesper's
Oh.
grade?
Yeah, so similar to that concept study for the frontage improvements or the sidewalk connectivity, just recently, there's some underutilized property south of the mall. This area, we've got low water pressure as we reach the extents of our water delivery system. As we gain elevation, we lose pressure. And also fire flow. So the hydrants in that area they don't produce enough fire flow flow at what we call 20 PSI to service or to meet the standards for, to put out a fire, especially something of this density. So one of the ways that they looked at to improve that was to add quantity to it. So same pressure system, just adding another straw from the reservoir in parallel with the rest of the system would run across the canyon where cable 1 is, and it would increase flow significantly. It wouldn't affect pressure, but it would increase flows. So it would get that fire demand satisfied.
So the current homeowners, are they experiencing a lack of pressure or a lack of flow?
So the fire flows is probably, the flow is more of the hydrant system, the fire flows. The pressure is what they're experiencing. They're on the upper end of a system where they're probably getting 40. The worst cases are probably have 30 to 40 PSI. And so they'd have to have pressure pumps installed to increase the pressure up to their house from the main.
Now, would adding additional units, even with those pumps, would that add additional pressure on that?
It's a pretty dynamic system. There's several reservoirs that feed the system, and there's several outlets into other systems. So it really needs to be modeled to get a very definitive proposal. That would be some of the stipulations of the design, is that you don't impact the existing, you don't degrade the existing system with your proposal. So those are things that would be vetted through the design process.
Questions for Pat?
We also have the fire marshal here, so if you have any fire questions, probably now would also be the time to ask those.
It wouldn't hurt if you don't mind, Julian.
I forgot you're here.
Since we got you here.
What's that?
Since we got you here.
Thank you. Julian Sorrell, Fire Marshal.
Just off the top of my head, do you have any concerns about this as far as fire truck entry into the building, fire flows? If they don't do that tap from Nez Perce over, what's that gonna look like for you guys for your fire flows on the hydrants?
They probably wouldn't be able to develop the project. There may be an option that I've discussed with the developer, putting a fire pump on the end of the existing pipe that's there to meet fire demands. That would be probably $150,000, $250,000 endeavor at his expense, with no benefit to the area other than for his parcel. As far as the access, that's all conceptual at this point. We very often make these turns into these properties, I've had this discussion before. When we turn the red lights on, people are supposed to move over the side of the road. They see us coming. You know, if we have a challenge to swing in, that's what the lights are for. As far as the site interior, that would need to meet the requirements for getting into the site, getting around the buildings, being able to turn the apparatus around and get back out quickly if we needed to. All of that stuff would happen during the design phase. So there's a section in the fire codes, the appendix. In single-family dwelling developments, when you reach 30 units or 30 dwelling units, you have to have 2 means of ingress and egress from that site. When you're in a multifamily commercial like this, you have to have 100 dwelling units before you're required to have 2 points of ingress and egress. So in conjunction with that, this project would have to be fire sprinklered, which provides all sorts of accommodations for access, for fire flow, et cetera. So yeah, it's all conceptual at this point. At this point, the fire department's approval that was passed to you is basically us saying, we're okay with putting a residential application next to a residential application. Our portion of the review is, you already have a daycare here, we're not gonna let you build a bomb factory.
Right. Additional questions? Thank you.
Now do we put Jennifer on the encouragement?
Jump in, Jennifer.
Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney. So the applicant has raised the issue about 17th Street. This issue has been addressed at least twice before by the city, once on April 30th of 2012, and the other one on November 30th, 2022. And both times, the city has essentially rejected the assertions that he's raised, and we don't see that this is an issue that it's being made out to be. The city does recognize that when it assumed ownership of that property in 1936, 17th Street was in its current alignment during that, or was realigned. And when it was realigned at that time, the then existing highway district constructed the portion of the roadway outside of the deeded public right-of-way and on property that he eventually acquired 60 plus years later. The city of Lewiston took over stewardship of that section of 17th Street in December of 1969 when the Lewiston Orchards was annexed into the city of Lewiston, and the city has recognized his concerns, but ultimately when he purchased the property, 17th Street existed as it was, and he assumed the property with all encroachments at that time.
Commission, do you have any questions of anybody?
Now's your time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now is your time to think of them and ask them, because once we close the public hearing, your questions can really only be germane to making a decision.
Yeah. Gets to rebuzz.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Julian's, or Pat, no, Julian, I can't remember. We have absolutely no intentions. We already are moving forward, working together with Dustin and Pat about getting the water line put in. A pump is not the way to go. It only benefit us. As far as the encroachment, I'll beg to differ with the city attorney. I keep getting called from everybody with they want my input. Obviously, they want my input. The engineering department and the city public works department wants my input. There's a reason why they want my input. But I'm very amicable about working with them. I want to get this resolved once and for all, and put that to bed and put that to rest and get this, this infrastructure and this street improved. It's beneficial for all of us. So, but again, I'll just beg to differ with the city attorney, and I'm wondering why they keep calling me and wanting my input. There's an obvious reason. So anyhow, with that said, I have nothing more unless you guys have questions. And I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. We can all go home soon and barbecue some steaks.
Again, Commission, this is your opportunity to ask any additional questions if you have any.
I actually do have one for Rick. If you don't mind, and
No, no worries.
this is kind of a curiosity. You made reference to multiple properties or throughout the community that are yours. Why this site for something so high-end? They're staring at the back of Winco.
It's a very nice location, you know, as a good developer and where I've developed properties. I've developed up and down Thane Road for 30 years, and I can tell you, I've torn down houses on Thane Road, had to rezone when it was still residential on Thane Road, where they finally just, I mean, I commend you guys for doing the, you know, last week for doing the how do I call that, redevelopment, rezoning?
The upzone.
That is the best thing that this city has needed forever. I know people were angry and everything, but we have nowhere to build apartments or condominiums or anything. I'm not gonna build these condos over in Sunset area. I wouldn't do that. That's just not the place for it. As far as Thane Road goes, I can go through and tell you every project I've ever done. In fact, where Burger King is currently located, I wanted to do a complex there and I had dozens of people angry over it. But Burger King built there. They had a lot more traffic than I had anticipated, I had planned. Georgia Carpet Works, when we built that, or My Mechanic, the Savannah Mall, and I don't know, it's a tire shop now. We've traded tenants over and over through the years, but every one of those were houses I acquired those properties in the late 80s. And we tore the houses down. Anyhow, everywhere I go.
Respectfully,
I couldn't build one.
That was why I was asking, if I'm gonna go drop $500,000 to live in a really fussy, condo, do I wanna stare at Regents? Like, or are we gonna move in something absolutely stunning that you've provided, and then look behind us and go, well, that's a crap neighborhood, those need to come down, and that needs to come down, and, so in surroundings, I would think high-end money would like a bench somewhere.
Where?
Like, I don't know, buy it from McCann's. He's got a whole, anyway, thank you. Again, site.
If we put them across the street, we're looking at the Winco. We're looking at, no matter where you go.
No, it's not river. It's not looking at the river. It's looking at Winco and Regents. But when I talk about neighborhood, that isn't where I would do something that I'm gonna swing my Maserati into the driveway and wait for the gate to open, that's just, it's hitting me funny. But anyway, I appreciate.
I've seen there's downtown Spokane, we did some developments.
We're so far from Spokane.
I know, but I've watched Spokane develop too, and I've watched it grow, and it's, we're here in Lewiston trying to make it grow.
And I get it, and I've seen, Coeur d'Alene and I went up to South Hill of Spokane, and they've wedged in some apartments. I got lost. You couldn't tell where one complex ended and the whole next one began.
Right.
And anyway, so thank you.
Right,
thank you for at least,
You're welcome.
I'm just picturing Twin City Foods.
Yeah, except he doesn't want to do the extraction of all the goodies in the ground. Okay, but no, thank you, Rick. I
It's
appreciate
a
you
whole nother
coming in.
subject. I can tell you all about it.
Yeah.
We tried to acquire it.
Yeah. Well, where condos? Buy Walmart, or Kmart.
Great idea.
Yeah, level it and put up something stunning. Okay, sorry.
Okay, with that.
Carry
Let's bring it
Reel
back
it in.
bring it back to the topic.
Let's go.
Any additional questions, Commissioner? If not, then I will close the public hearing and then we will discuss and deliberate. All right. So I think because there are contested facts that we're relying on here, to borrow some language from our city attorney, I'm going to open it up to general discussion before we move to the relevant criteria. And I'm sure some of that will touch on the relevant criteria as we go through the discussion. So I feel that is more applicable and maybe more relevant for this type of request. So with that, I'll open it up to all of you commissioners. I'm not gonna call on anybody.
But if you could focus your discussion and deliberation on the criteria.
Yes,
it would be nice.
yes, yes, we will not try to talk about Walmart.
That's kind of the rock and the hard place on this one, right? Because it touches some of it, some of the relevant criteria is accurate, you know, the future comprehensive plan through 20 or 44, whatever it is. You know, that zoning eventually is gonna end up most likely someday becoming that unless residential housing already exists on it, right? But I'm looking at like 3 other points and it's way off.
Yeah.
I think I'm not going to relate this to a prior public hearing that we had, but this is sort of where we get into, and I know it's been touched on in prior discussions, where technically it fits some of these points.
Some,
But technical is not the end all be all.
well, but I think it really breaks down to, we could pick and choose either direction. So it's really comes down to, when we look at the comprehensive plan, this is in that community commercial. And so it really kind of gets down to that, which I find it strange that the map jogs out into what is a residential area for community commercial. But I think you can look at community commercial and you can read it either way, because, I mean, it talks about provides transition and intensity from adjacent uses and zones, and provides an appropriate transition in building scale from surrounding uses. And so, do you picture that going from single-family residences on 1/5 of an acre and larger to 48 units, 4 stories high? You know, is that transition?
Well,
And then when they talk about access locating on a collector or arterial, it fits that portion, but there's a second half of the sentence that says with adequate access. So I mean, you know.
Well, that area is kind of hard too, because you have R2 and then you have commercial.
The commercial right there.
So there's not exactly.
There's no, well, and it.
Transition.
And listening to the staff report and Katie's presentation and everything else, you know, when the original PUD was designed, with all these areas outlined in it. And it, you know, to sit there and say, well, it was originally zone R4, well, that R4 section was moved over to where Fairview Terrace is. And then the commercial zone was supposed to be here, but we decided to turn that into R2 and put the commercial over here. So it's not like, I stand there and say, if everything else had been adhered to in the original PUD, if everything that was originally platted out in that PUD had held fast, and that section was zoned as R4 in the original PUD, obviously we wouldn't be here. So I feel as if that R4 that PUD has just gone.
What's changed over time.
Yeah, and as somebody who has worked at Regents and had to do that, you know, I literally, personally, I drove down to, 21st, and took advantage of that because the visibility. So, I mean, when I'm looking at the comprehensive plan and I'm looking at everything else, I'm looking at like TC 1.1, you know, I'm looking at the traffic safety issue. And no offense to any of y'all who bought on 25th, but no. I wouldn't have done that to myself in any way, shape, or form.
So I'm Normal Hill, and I shoot up to 5th all the time because I'm a complete thrifter and absolutely love every thrift store. I pop out on, what is it, right above you guys, is that Stewart? Vineyard, yeah. Okay, so I pop out right in front of that apartment complex that they wedged in there.
But that's one of those flats.
No, flat aside,
Well,
I still have to wait because
yeah,
we've got people crowding in from the double lane into the single lane, and they're, I don't live on 25th.
No.
But I access that hood.
Yeah. But I'm thinking
every weekend, and so when I think about just down a little bit below 25th, yes, there's 2 lanes if they want to go south.
Yeah.
But what's south?
Income.
No, that's north.
Or north, yeah, the south is just the
So,
orchard.
so you're gonna get the vast magnitude
Going north.
of your traffic trying to come across the lanes. And that's, you know, and when I'm sitting at Vineyard waiting to pop out, I'm trying to go south. I wanna hit, I will
That's an
not
easy
cross over to try to drop down 17th
And
at
the
all.
really bad part
And-
is that is where that visibility is the worst.
But when we talk about our criteria, we aren't even getting an R3 in here, people. We're going from R2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to R4.
To R4. Now, when I think about commercial and, you know, you proposed, okay, so if we have to do a comprehensive plan every 20 years or whatever it is, you know, obviously, things change over time, and this particular development has extended beyond that with the PUD, you know, 25 plus years.
Yeah.
So, part of our job here, I think, is to yes, listen to public input that we did during the time of the last comprehensive plan, figure out what works. When we talk about infill, I think infill is important, but, you know, technically, we could easily jump across 17th to that vacant lot, take it back out of commercial, and wedge us in a nice tiny village, you know, so, because one of the things this applicant said was, why is everybody concerned about affordability? Well, I can say that if we go back to the criteria about, does it match or blend well with the current surroundings?
Well,
The
different
LU2
housing
too.
Okay,
typology
so
as
it does, different housing, but you were jumping from a single family to, it sounds to me like one of the highest end, high density, gated communities, and then regions, you know, and.
I think even if you because we can't necessarily consider the cost of the units, it remains the density jump that you have mentioned.
We don't even have a buffer, we're just
From
like.
an R2 to an R4. And I understand that the idea is this community would be separate from the residential, but is it putting a fence or a barrier is not, in my mind, an actual separation?
So we have, I can't think of it, 6, 7 houses backed up against what is proposed, right? They're already there, been there, paid to put it there, and they've got their backyard views. So I have a 6-foot fence, I live down in Normal Hill, and one of my favorite things to do is go out and garden in almost as little as I can get away with when it's 120 degrees. And nobody wants me leaving the neighbors, so I stay in the backyard, you know. But when I think about the current residents in their homes, most of them are not gonna be sitting out in the front porch, they're gonna be sitting out on the back decks. So you're in your back deck, maybe you like to garden semi-naked too. And all of a sudden now you have and I think about the positioning of these buildings. So I think the way it's designed theoretically, if it were to build out as it is, the windows facing south are limited because the next building is gonna be blocking it. But the windows facing west, I mean, come on, you want windows, you're gonna have a high-end apartment, your condo, you're gonna want windows. So, yeah, I mean, let's get out the bird watching binoculars and check all you people out. So, cause we have elevation, and so, no, I don't, I think that where we have jumped to high density, and it's high in both ways. We have multiple peoples and we have elevation.
Yeah.
I don't think it jives with the surrounding, unless we want to move into regions.
We had this discussion when, I think it was Happy Day, wanted to put the big giant
You know me and banners or those
billboard
big
thing,
billboards.
you know.
I don't
And
like them.
we had a lengthy discussion at that point about the the light noise coming from that and the impact that that would have on the residential that's in the area, you know, at night. And, you know, I look at that and, you know, just kind of like the last one that we had a really lengthy discussion about, you know, we really got into the LU 1.1 and the compatibility with the surrounding area. And I think that we have to find balance, you know. The comprehensive plan talks about that middle housing. And, you know, I think we got into a lengthy discussion about what that means. What does middle housing? I mean, there is no definition for middle housing. But I think part of what I envision as middle housing is multifamily, but not necessarily.
No, I think those, like over by the aquatic center, a beautiful little tiny village.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's somewhat high, small lots, high density.
Yeah.
Charming as hell.
Yeah.
And if I, you know, I mean, and what'd you say we have in elevation from the residence down to?
56 feet.
50, okay, so that's 56 feet.
That's just on the subject property from one end of the subject
Yeah,
property to the other 56
yeah,
feet.
and no, okay, so but if they're abutting, if I'm building right up behind somebody's fence, I don't think that there's that much of an elevation drop. If we were talking about the site that Regent sits on, that's a huge frickin' drop.
Well, yeah.
You could, you know.
You can see over that building.
So when high density PUD, you know, I could see a sprawl, one of those little maze.
Yes. Well, and
tiny
looking
home.
at the numbers, from my math, if I'm correct, I believe that we can, you know, somebody could fit 15 units in there on 2.65 acres. Yeah, if the lot size is 7,500, then under the current R2, you're looking at 15, you know, I mean, we have some change because the lot is 115,434, 7,500, it's 15 and change. You know, you could fit 15 units in there under the current R2.
New state law, you can go 1,200 square foot lots.
Well, God love the state.
I don't know that it qualifies for that.
They get to be
Is it
4
a PUD?
acres.
Yeah, I think it's 4 acres.
Oh, if it's.
But that's what I'm saying, in the current with the R2, you could do 15 units in there.
Yeah.
Which is still gonna be traffic.
Which is still gonna be traffic, but it would be,
But it'd still be less, I mean, it'd still be
but you'd have, you
less
wouldn't have
traffic
the
than
height.
48 units or
Yeah.
a potential, or a potential 70 units. Because we're basing this off the development that we have presented before us.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean.
The change designation allows for 70 units based on that square
And
footage.
just something to be aware of, in the R2, which it's currently zoned, the height would be 35 feet.
Oh,
That's what's allowed in an R2, is 35.
The PUD, not.
The PUD does not. Its
Does not.
designation is for single family only.
Single family.
So, yeah, to date, and
Which is
they've
why,
come.
the
but
duplexes
we-
were rejected back.
You said the standards are compatible with R2?
It generally follows the lot size standards of the R2 for things
Any
like,
differential in height?
for like setbacks. I think that separately, part of those CCNRs is that they had height restrictions on each lot.
Yeah.
But there's not now.
But those CCNRs are not applicable to this lot, and if it fell under an R2 designation, then they're looking at a 35-foot.
Yeah.
Well, it still falls under the PUD, so
Yeah.
it's single family.
Yeah, single family, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. The R2 designation, they could fit 15 units in there.
But that's, I don't know enough about the developer.
Either way, we're
group.
up top. Yes,
I know.
back.
Yeah, no, I don't, yeah.
Well, because we're talking about comprehensive plans.
I mean, you
now,
could
so-
argue, yeah, I mean, I think that conversation is germane to whether the current zone is, or whether the proposed rezone does or does not, or wait, maybe, what am I looking at here?
Look at your criteria.
So the
sorry,
criteria,
I'm
the first
trying to-
one, in general conformance with the comprehensive
Well,
plan.
yes, but I think that conversation is particular to
Number two.
number two.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is as well suited or better suited
Yes.
for the
Yeah.
proposed zoning
And I
district
think
as the
that's,
existing zoning district.
I think that's relevant to the current density of the surrounding neighborhood.
Yeah.
And obviously what it is now and what can fit on there relative to what can fit on there in the change designation of
Yeah.
R2.
Also, number 5, you can address with that, the size,
Yeah,
type, and
number
density of the development expected to occur on the subject property as a result of the rezoning is or is not suitable for the area and will or will not unduly burden the neighborhood, public infrastructure, or environmental resources.
Yeah, I did have one other question I forgot to ask. He's gone now, so. The stormwater issue, right?
Yeah.
We've heard
Well, there-
stormwater issues. If you look at the JUB plan review,
The stormwater assessment.
they have, that the city would have to build a stormwater basin somewhere at the bottom of the hill.
So part of the staff report was part of the stormwater master plan for this particular area that was provided by Public Works. But yes, it would have to follow whatever the stormwater requirements
Right.
are for a lot that size, that amount of lot coverage. You know, they would follow just kind of the standard things that any development would follow.
You know, even coming back to number 1, when it talks about the general conformance to the comprehensive plan, and the applicant was very strongly saying, oh, it 100% is, you know, different ranging of housing, et cetera. And, you know, we know that it's an arterial, it's a corridor. Where was I going with that, general conformance? I think that the idea that it is in conformance is kind of a little loosey-goosey on the, because I think
it goes back to, it technically is in conformance with the comprehensive plan.
Depending on how you read it.
But, right, in part, but you can look at other aspects of these points and say that
yeah,
it's not.
Right.
If I were to read through these and
Well, I mean, when you look at, on the comprehensive plan, it's whatever, page 61, comprehensive plan, where it says community commercial, which is the zone, or the area, you know, if we're gonna refer directly to the comprehensive plan, that's the page we need to be looking at. And it talks about the things, and it does say, commercial uses remain along street frontage, which this would be, but it very clearly says in the next sentence, residential uses should be located above or behind commercial uses. So this is a residential, and then provides transition in intensity from adjacent uses and zones, and provides appropriate transition in building scale from surrounding uses. And then the existing or planned infrastructure is adequate to meet the needs of the proposed use. So the existing doesn't, we know that. The planned, their ideas, you know, I mean.
and I think Pat addressed the traffic aspect of things as well, stating that the city would be financially responsible to expand and develop 17th, which,
$2.8 million.
well, that might have been 10 years ago or 2 days ago. It's not gonna be whatever million moving forward. So my thought again on comprehensive plan, I remember where I was going with it. We talk about islands of weird little zoning pockets. And, you know, Katie's entire thing is let's quit having these little islands of, you know, and of pockets. And I think if we do consider changing the R2-ish, right, to a hypothetical R4-ish, we are creating a pocket. I think that the topography in its own right in the area, specifically where it drops down to regions, is a very blatant line of, you know, if you're this tall, you get to be this, you know, and so I think that a comprehensive plan, we meet it, but we also would be contradicting it.
yes. It meets it in part, but it doesn't meet it
Yeah.
in part.
Okay.
And so I think I mean, when you consider number one, that's the balancing test between which one do you weigh more? And you can have points that back up your side, and then there are points that will back up somebody else's, because as I say it repeatedly, it technically does, but there are aspects of it that it doesn't.
It puts in direct
That it puts in direct
opposition.
conflict.
Yeah.
And I think it really comes down to, when you talk about that, you also have to get, because when you look at the neighborhood commercial, you look at that page 60, it touches on all the different, that it wants to go in with. And part of what we talked about pretty extensively, of course, was the land use goals and objectives. And so, LU11, where they're talking about compatibility. And this is one of those ones that we lean heavily into, which is optimizing compatibility, align incompatible zoning and land uses and development regulations, which is what we were doing with the R3F zone, to establish consistent and compatible growth patterns. I agree with Cindy in the fact that it just creates this, where we're trying to get rid of these little islands of, these little pockets of stuff. This is maybe outside the scope of the zone change, but you're plopping something in there that is entirely on its own. Yeah, we're creating a new island where we're trying to get rid of another.
But we can go back to the last public hearing that we had that brought up conformance and brought up conformance, I think, Zach talked about the legality of things. So, but there's also, and forgive me for putting it this way, there's also residents trying to protect their personal properties and their investments, their lifestyles, their expectations when they bought and developed or bought and targeted, just as I ranted about the neighborhoods and stuff that I targeted. And there's a house at the end of 25th that, trust me, I got very excited when it went up on the market. It was already gone by the time I got there, but I have a door from it, we'll just say that. So, so again, I think I don't think that we can ignore the volume of pushback, nor can we ignore the history of the previous two presentations to the city.
Well, I think it comes down to first do no harm.
Well, it's compatibility.
It comes back, it plays back to the compatibility.
An aspect of compatibility is zoning, but it also is compatibility with the neighborhoods surrounding the property.
With existing.
Compatibility isn't just a technical item on a
No, it's
document,
not.
it's also the surrounding community.
I've had quite a few meetings regarding that.
Exactly.
Looking at, I mean, if we look at the neighborhood around it, I mean, yes, we do have commercial
Adjacent,
and all of that. But also surrounding that piece of land is R2, and all of those houses are single family. We don't have a lot of apartment buildings.
No.
So it's not
up the hill and they're down the hill.
None of that exists. It's
right,
just
and I think
straight
if we
R2.
were talking maybe a duplex or something like that, that would fit in more with the residential area. But we're talking about,
or even those little
and I don't want to
fourplexy things that they do.
I don't want to go against supporting multifamily,
No.
which is hard, but we have to look at what's surrounding it.
Exactly.
So it's a hard balance.
Okay, so use of surface and groundwater. So back to the criteria.
We've jumped around a little
So
bit.
on 6, just on 6, I'm looking at the ground use of surface and groundwater. I don't think the stormwater applies to that Like the collection of it? No? Okay, thank you.
I don't think so. So that in our criterion standards, that would just be an NA as we consider it a not applicable. So let's run through these one at a time now that
Okay.
we've had some general discussion, kind of solidified our thoughts a little bit. So number one, the proposed rezone is or is not in general conformance with the Lewiston Comprehensive Plan.
I would jump in there and say that technically it'd be like 5-1, like one part of it does, but the other 4 don't, or whatever. You know, it's just a unilateral number, but
Can you say both?
Well,
yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Well, I mean, you can, it's how you phrase that.
Is in part and
It's how you
is
do,
not.
it's how you define general conformance.
Partially in general conformance.
Yeah.
What percentage?
I mean, now
I
you're
mean,
really
you
going
can,
out
you
of
can,
bounds.
you can weigh the parts as far as the area, the elements that are in conformance versus not. But ultimately, you know, in deciding this, the question is the proposed rezone in general conformance? And as far as that, you know, you can weigh the information presented to you in making that decision.
It would serve a buffer, which is the intent of our board, yes.
Yes, yeah.
It would do that.
Yeah. I believe that it is in general conformance with the comprehensive plan
Okay.
overall. Not saying I'm gonna think that way on the rest of it.
And why do you say that?
Because we have created that as a, what did I call it? Community commercial. Because the comprehensive plan does outline that as community commercial. And we are looking at infill and things like that, and multiple housing.
Multiple options for housing, yes, it does.
You know, I think that portion of it, yes, it does meet that conformance with that commercial plan, or the comprehensive plan.
There we go, got a yes.
Are there any reasons why you think it's not?
Oh, there's a lot of reasons why I would think it was not.
Can you please identify those as well?
Well, like I said, you know, I mean, I think the LU22, scale appropriate, and LU11 compatibility, like I stated before, TC11, traffic safety, I have concerns about that. I guess I would actually have more issue with the comprehensive plan and the fact that this little parcel was listed as a community commercial.
I mean, I'd even say H 3.2 for it doesn't necessarily fit, because we're talking,
Yeah.
it says encourage denser housing types in areas with infrastructure capacity and
Exactly.
transit.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then
And I'm not,
H133, same, you know.
so it does in part, and I mean,
Yeah.
if I had to go with yes or no, I'd say yes, but in truth, it does in part and it doesn't in
Yes.
part.
Yeah.
So we're going with H133 is the yes,
Is a no.
is a no.
No,
Is a-
H,
H133 is a no.
and then H 3.2.
It's supporting, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Trying to track you guys.
That's weird.
oh, good luck. I can't even track what's going on in my head most of the time.
Yeah, so.
What about H3.2.1?
Lord.
The walking distance,
Gosh, you have to go
Well,
back
yeah,
down.
well,
transit services.
it is.
So I know that we had this kind of discussion on a previous application where we talked about how it was near transit.
Adjacent, but didn't make
it's
it easy to get there.
No, it's adjacent, but it's not what I would consider feasible to,
Even with the development of sidewalks, there was even discussion, I think, during the presentation that, well, maybe which side. So if we
Yeah.
put sidewalks down the east side,
you'd have to get over to it.
you gotta get over there.
And then you'd definitely be playing Frogger on the road. You know. I mean, if it were on the west side and you could make it all the way down, but then where are you crossing? Are you crossing at Winco? Are you crossing all the way down at the bottom on whatever that is, 18th or?
So if they were to develop, you know, with sidewalk in the front of that property, you would, in order to cross, because I walk in that area frequently. In order to walk safely, you would have to go down to the light.
You'd have to go all the way down to the light to cross safely.
Is there crosswalks along the
I may or
Regents
may not have done some
section?
sketchy running across.
No,
Not
I think
crosswalk, I'm
we've
sorry,
all done
sidewalk.
There's
There's that weird
a
stop
a
thing.
portion of like.
Yeah, it just comes to a stop.
Yeah, just stops.
Well,
There's a
they get your
guardrail.
walks done and you turn around.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen kids on those little motorized things go flying up that, and I'm like, I don't think that's gonna end like you think it's going to end.
Okay, so then on, just so I am still tracking you guys, so then on the yeses, we had LU2, provide housing choices throughout Lewiston, yeah?
And the buffer, what's that?
And then the diversify housing office, that's LU 2.1, is that really yes, okay? Where is the buffer?
Holy Toledo, let me find my.
And
Yes.
LU
Touch
1.1 was.
1 is a no.
1.1 is the no.
That's a no, and 2.2 is a no. I mean, 2.3 could be a
Okay, so that's
yes.
the compatibility one, you're allowed for density by ensuring compatibility,
Yeah.
okay.
2.3 would be a yes, because of the workforce housing for critical services.
Yeah, that's definitely, they hit on that point in the presentation.
Well, yeah.
So does this conform to an is or is not based on how we did the reason statement? Do you need us to?
Well, Maureen said
I already
yes,
said
but
it's
there's,
is.
Oh, okay,
but
that's right. You
we're
said
giving
yes,
applicable.
but okay, but
Yeah, I wrote down that you guys were going with is, but you're showing the
Yes,
ises,
okay,
and then
yeah,
you're also
yeah.
saying but.
But,
There are
okay.
a lot of
Because
is
it's just, we're just being asked if it's a general conformance.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Does it
there will
actually
be a lot of
need it?
commentary kind of showing your back and forth.
Yeah. So then.
Number 2.
Yeah, so moving to number 2, the subject property is or is not at least as well suited or is better suited for the proposed zoning district than the existing zoning district.
And this is where I'm in is not.
And I am and is not on this.
because,
That goes back to, I'm looking for it, hold on.
It goes back to,
LU 2.2.
yeah,
It's right
LU
there, scale
22.
appropriate, fits existing neighborhood, doesn't meet any of that requirement.
It doesn't, I mean, it does not, I mean, they all kind of touch on each other. So, I mean, in terms of like, even just for number 2, for density and scale, it doesn't fit.
It's a dramatic.
It's a dramatic change. We talked about from an R2 to an R4. There's an R3 somewhere in the middle of 2 and 4.
Generally.
This is
Yeah.
not what's being proposed. So even if you, this is my view of it, even if you take the proposed developments out, the current 48 units, the presentation that we saw, if this was just a flat out rezone, from an R2 to an R4, that property could technically have 70 units on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Nothing around that unit
No.
comes close to comes close to what could hypothetically be on that property.
yeah.
And that is where I come down as the is not.
The
Well, and-
closest thing would be that apartment complex down below Stewart, I think.
Yeah, it's on Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the one on Stewart, and then, like I said, the Fairview Terrace, which is right behind the Regent's parking garage.
And
That complex is down there, but it's not,
Oh, I know which one you're talking.
11 units.
yeah,
and we
it's not
as-
massive.
And I
It's-
mean, we as a commission are not necessarily governed by the precedent of prior decisions or that we've made or other commissions have made. But we've had conversations where we have literally gone into detail over neighborhood concerns around duplexes and triplexes. None
Well,
of
the
those come
fiveplex.
close, right? The fiveplex, none of those come close to this scale. So, and I understand every situation that we decide is
Is
unique
different,
and
yeah.
based on the factors that are involved in that.
Yeah.
But this particular situation it is not to me.
I got you.
Well, and I think too, we can bring in the transportation and connectivity goals. We talk about, you can look at TC 2.3, managing traffic congestion and having adequate flow, width, and functionality. That is that right at that bottleneck spot where.
Yeah, and imagine public transport, and of course, it's not being proposed that would be unnecessary, whatever, but they have no pull off.
Well, and two, I stand back and look at it and say, one of the things that was brought up was schooling. And, if you've got young professionals moving into a building like this and they have children, we're required by law to provide public transportation, school transportation. Where on earth would you
Stop school bus.
stop the school bus?
Oh my God. On that, in that particular area.
I was just thinking about a zip line in McSorley.
Zip line McSorley on the backside. Okay, but how do they get back up? Are we gonna put in a pommel? Is it gonna be like the ski hill, no snow? Inner tubes?
Bring it back.
No information was presented about transportation other than the public comment related to concerns about it.
No, the only thing we got was parking, and the parking was discussed.
Yeah.
So it sounds.
But TC 1.1, reduce crash rates for all modes of transportation. So, we do have to understand and mitigate risks, it says.
So I think we're in agreement that number 2 is not. And I will move on to number 3. The proposed rezone does or does not present foreseen immediate impacts of incompatible uses or development being located in the same vicinity.
I don't know how you, like you said, mitigate.
One more time, read the statement one more time.
So the proposed rezone does or does not present foreseen immediate impacts of incompatible uses or development being located in the same vicinity.
Impacts that cannot be resolved through other measures. Like light shielding or noise.
Right, so if you talk light noise, you got a
Privacy.
49-foot building, they're talking 8-foot fence, there's no
Yeah,
way you're gonna
privacy.
you're not gonna mitigate 49 feet.
And privacy is huge. That's.
Well, you're also, it's based on a rezone, it's not necessarily based on just
The building.
this
Yeah.
particular
valid,
building.
valid.
So then you would be talking, can you mitigate the hypothetical up to 70 units?
Up to 70 units, exactly. That's what I'm thinking is, up to 70
Well,
units.
yeah.
There is no way to fit 70 units on there without going vertical.
Yep.
So,
And I might add that the applicant was very generous in explaining noise specific to HVAC. He also spoke, even about blasting or not blasting, as the case may be now. Go science. Height, you're right.
you can't get past the height, you cannot get past the
loss of privacy.
The loss
to
of
the
privacy, and you
surrounding.
cannot get past the light. External lights, that was one of our biggest with the billboards in that area, is popping billboards. Even though it's along a quote-unquote commercial corridor, it's a residential area, and we're adding severe light noise.
Billboards.
You
and me both.
It does present.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
It sounds like we're in agreement on does. Then number 4, the effects of the proposed rezone are or are not anticipated to place undue burden upon delivery of services provided by any political subdivisions within the planning jurisdiction, including school districts.
Well, we heard a little bit about school districts.
We didn't necessarily hear from the school district.
No, that is true, that is true.
No.
We did hear testimony
trusted teacher, but
Oh, no, I know, I'm not speaking to mitigate any
yeah,
of those
no,
comments, I'm just
no.
saying.
Just so that Jennifer can defend us in court. I understand.
As a reminder, they were provided notice and an opportunity to comment, and they chose not to comment,
Yes.
related to the impact that this application would have
Yes.
on the delivery of their services.
So, yeah, the other services, of course, we've heard about the need,
Water,
the
fire,
need to
fire.
connect up the
Water.
water,
Yes.
the need to potentially widen 17th to accommodate fire trucks. We've heard about those things, but I don't think a Vista popped off.
No. I mean, I would honestly say it probably leans towards Arnott, based on what we've heard
Well,
from.
as long as there are plans, I mean, they've got plans in place to offset those.
Yes,
And-
yes, based on the testimony that we heard.
And the traffic flows, it was very clear that per Pat, that further studies would
Yeah, be
be
needed.
likely
Yeah, I would
called
lean
for.
with Arnott.
Yeah. So, sounds like we're in Arnott.
Yep.
All right, number 5, the size, type, intensity, and density of development expected to occur on the subject property as a result of this rezoning is or is not suitable for the area and will or will not unduly burden the neighborhood, public infrastructure, or environmental resources.
Is not and will.
Yeah. Yeah,
For all the reasons we've discussed.
I mean, I know, yeah, we've touched.
C answers A, B,
Yeah,
C.
I was gonna say,
D.
we have touched on this in our discussion, but again, it is the R2 to the R, is it the?
It's R2 to
Sorry,
R4.
I always get that confused. It is the R2 to the R4 without really, in my mind, any significant barrier between
Any
them.
buffer.
It is the type of development that can occur on that zone change relative to what is around it.
Public infrastructure
Yep.
alone, I mean.
Yeah, and, yeah, I mean, I'm.
These are all pie in the sky plans for sidewalks and new water
Right.
lines. None of that is existing, none of it is being built.
I think
Right.
until there is actual infrastructure on
Right.
17th,
Yeah,
then maybe we
Yeah.
could look at something with
Right.
higher density,
right,
but
yeah, yes.
it just does not.
Yeah. And that's not necessarily on the applicant that there
No,
isn't
no.
public
Right.
infrastructure, it
No,
is public
no.
infrastructure, but
It just
No,
doesn't
and
exist.
he was
Yeah.
actually trying hard to address what he knows to already be a problem.
yes,
He's
yes.
followed, the path of doing the traffic generation and following this stuff.
So it sounds like we're in agreement that is not suitable for the area and will unduly burden the neighborhood.
And I think we need to include the testimony from the public.
Yeah.
Yes.
All were in opposition.
In opposition.
In opposition, yes. Well, you could include the testimony from the public for number 2 as well.
Yeah.
So then number 6, the proposed rezone is or is not in conformance with Idaho Code 67-6537, use of surface and groundwater. I would say that's NA. And
It would be, typically when we say NA, we say that it is in conformance because.
oh, okay.
Sure.
Okay.
We haven't otherwise
Yeah,
received.
We
there's
haven't
nothing
received-
that we've
Oh,
received
okay,
that says
fair
that
enough.
it would
That
not
says-
be.
Yeah,
Okay.
just like,
No applicable commentary.
yeah, just like with the political subdivisions, if we don't receive commentary, then we typically treat it as they are not opposed because they have not expressed anything that would indicate anything other
Anything
than
adverse.
acceptance by acquiescence.
Sounds like you've written that down a few times.
Well, that being the case,
I would like to make a motion
you may do so, Commissioner.
propose a reason statement denying this application.
I will second that motion. So it has been moved and seconded to direct staff to develop a reason statement denying Fairview Terrace planned unit development for an amendment, or I have this, I get my wording mixed up here. It has been moved and seconded to direct staff to create a reason statement denying Fairview Terrace's planned unit development amendment by Millennium Trust LLC. So all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries. And I know Jen is going to get on this because we have.
And Katie. Now we have to.
Oh, Katie, yeah.
You first draft, she does my draft.
Well, yes, but what I was going to say is, isn't there a code that we have to, if we deny a reason
Yes,
statement?
if there's a decision on the application to deny,
Yep.
they either could or could not
Yep.
take action to.
So is
obtain
there,
approval.
yes, is there an action that the applicant can take to abate the issues that we have brought up that would allow this to move forward? And not, I think what we're really talking about is that the rezone cannot be an R4.
Right.
So what we were talking about is fundamentally, we're talking about fundamentally changing the entire point of the applicant's proposed rezone.
Right.
And so in that case, I would say there is not any way that the applicant can mitigate because of what is being proposed.
Not to an R4.
Yeah,
Can
not
you
to an R4.
explain your reasoning why?
Well, I think.
That's the requirement of that particular section.
So an R4, in theory, despite the presentation and the proposed development, an R4 could take it upwards of 70.
Taken upwards of 70,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Not compatible.
It's,
I mean, we get back to the compatibility.
for the reasons that we discussed, from density to infrastructure to concerns about traffic.
and the lack of the medium density buffer.
Yes, the lack of a buffer, the R4 zone by itself and what it allows based on that property.
And the undue burden to property owners.
Yep, exactly. Makes it so there isn't a way to mitigate this particular request.
Yep.
Does that satisfy, Jen?
Yes.
Just making
always
sure
about
and documenting. So then with that, I think that concludes the public hearing.
Portion. Staff
Yep.
communication.
Yes. So moving on to number 4, staff commission communications. I will let you lead that one, Katie.
Hold on, I gotta find my.
While she's looking for her staff communications, I do want to let you know that for this particular reason statement, I will have it closer to the meeting date versus when the packet gets issued.
Okay.
So I'll probably have it to everyone by next Friday.
Okay.
Because I have a conference the next 2 days, so I won't be available.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
So
pay attention and read it sooner.
Well, I mean, it'll come to you later, so you'll have less time to read it.
Oh.
That's what I mean.
Fine.
Because typically when we do these,
Yeah.
we provide them to you the Wednesday before the meeting,
Yeah.
which is next Wednesday. And so,
Yeah.
it's not a large turnaround time. And then with me being out of the office for 2 days, it's even less time. And then the longer the reason statement, the more time it takes.
Yes, no, I know, and this one,
This'll be a
yes.
long one.
This
These are
one's gonna be a
fairly, this
lengthy
one is
one.
fairly detailed, yes,
We talked a lot.
yes.
You're supposed to be proud of us. We talked a lot.
We do. Okay, so my things are just, anyone unable to attend the June 24th meeting. I know that Shay said she was unable, I already had that one noted down from the last one. So you will have the reason statement from tonight's public hearing, and then we will be doing, that use zones work session that you guys requested.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
Anybody besides Shay unable to attend?
Not that I know of now.
Kyle?
Most likely no, Kyle, I might be. I have to go down,
Maybe.
I have to go down to Boise. So.
Okay, I'm gonna put no Kyle, and if you show up, it'll be a pleasant surprise.
Sorry for being late.
Depends on the Huckleberry.
And then no Shay. Okay.
Well, I'm glad you were actually here, because I really didn't want to reschedule this.
Everyone else is a yay for the 24th?
Yeah, depends on the
5:30
Huckleberry,
That's at
but
5:30.
my plan is
But
to
you
be
showed
in
up
town
at-
on
You
Wednesday.
get his cell phone
You showed up at
number.
like 5:35.
I'm in touch.
Yeah, you actually showed up
So that
before
I'm
6,
aware.
Sorry,
so.
I thought it was a 6.
And then as a reminder, because this is still pending before you, you can't have any discussion about it still.
Right.
Outside of this meeting.
All right, with that, Commission, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Stop looking at me.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Stop. Thank
You say
you.
stop.
I did.
Not like I did it.
Would you stop touching me? You stop touching me.
That's why I tell people who only have one kid, I don't really consider you a parent unless you've had to solve that argument.
Does that mean you don't consider me a parent? 'Cause